we speak.
Yes.
Oh.
Field. Carol, it looks like you might be muted. Carol. Jean.
Here.
No.
Here.
John Rommelfanger.
Present.
Tracy Shue.
Here.
John Velazquez. You're on, but it looks like you're self-muted, so we can't hear you. But we do have enough people that can speak and see them to start. We do have the necessary. Wait, you're here.
Sorry. Two different mute buttons. Hatfield present. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead, David.
If anybody has had a chance to review motion to approve.
I have not had a chance.
Board members only.
Okay.
If we can have a move to approve the minutes from the last meeting, please.
I'll make a motion to approve the March 7th meeting as presented.
Would you read it, Parker? Because we did have a. Okay.
Any opposed? Okay, the meeting from the minutes from the last meeting can be move on to business. Mary Joy, can you the board?
Here tonight for the liquor license revocation hearing for sport. And the see Susan Fernan wanted to address the board about the her request to have this postponed. So Susan, feel free to go ahead and stage your.
I just from
Susan, before you can I swear you in, please? Will you raise your and do you swear and affirm that the testimony you're about to give is true and correct?
Yeah.
Please say your name and for the record, please.
It's Susan Fernan, 40 South Dillon Street, Aurora, Colorado 80015. I want to go ahead since I did get the Mark sent me the information like a day ago, I think it was, and so forth. Nobody has given me any information on what's going on. So he sent me information like day before. So I barely got that information. I was able to print it out and look at it. So I was going to go ahead, and since I had some, I went ahead and pulled them all out, 60 pages just of other stuff. And I want to go ahead and continue with this meeting to delay it any longer. You it, so I'm just go ahead and continue this.
Do you want us to hold the hearing today
Yes,
and have the board hear all the testimony?
yes.
So is the city going to provide their testimony and their information first?
Mark, my name is Mark Brostrom. I represent the attorney's office tonight. And so I had assumed that the city's witnesses first. Thank you. What I'd like to start by just about why we're in our municipal code under 511, which just talks about licenses in general. There's a couple things that first in paragraph 3 that no license should be held contrary to the public health, safety, and welfare interests. Paragraph 6, I think, makes a point that I think I'm going to come back to several times because ultimately it points out why we have licenses, which is activities that pose some risk to the community. In fact, it says these possess a significant harm to interest in and so here on for Sports Watch, I'm going to go to a large number of what they've experienced there, their experience, and ultimately their experience with our that is rapidly and has a very different in the demographic that is currently patronizing. So what I'd like Dave Horvat, sir, are you
I see his name, but it appears that he's self-muted.
Tied.
if I can have one moment?
Isn't his name John?
Dave.
Yeah, is Dave?
If I said Dave, then I misspoke. Forgive me. I think error. His name is
John. Sounds like, John, if you're calling in, is unmuting the app.
witnesses who are also present brought while, and if this solved while comes, we get another witness in here, we'll pass it away and hopefully solve this.
Okay, perfect.
His name?
Mark, did you hear Susan's question?
Forgive me, his name is Zach Levinson. I can't answer that. I was believe he is.
He is. He's at the home. He rents Zilla. She owns the Zeldis. She's the owner. So Zach and Ben are renters for her. I pulled a record. You know, as far as all the records.
Chairman and Deputy Clerk Mary Joy. This is Keith Mark. I don't know. Examination of that witness.
These meetings.
Purposes of keeping the record clean.
Absolutely.
If you would introduce yourself to the board.
I am Zach Levinson. I live near Sports Watch.
Okay. Describe,
What I was going to say, Mr. Levinson, let's have the chair.
If you will please raise your right hand, and do you swear in the testimony you are about to give and your address for the record?
Levinson. 6780 Mead Circle, Unit A, Westminster, Colorado.
Thank you. You may proceed.
okay. And how education?
I've lived there about a year and a half, a little over a year and a half.
Okay. And in that time, have you developed any concerns, observations of Sports Watch as an operation? Describe what the
kind of aggressive things seeming to happen there. And I would say the second major concern, most Watch is open. There is a lot of music permeate. Closest to to the bar. I feel it, or even sometimes might be buzzing. And I would even go into the house that being a very powerful carry. So if I move away from that, that close.
Is this noise that you hours or other times in the day?
So most of the time it starts during the evening, and I would say it goes to sometimes into the hour. And it goes as late as 2 or maybe 3 in the morning.
Okay, disruptive. There were two say sports watch bar and grill makes you feel unsafe.
I think that I noticed most of the time I hear people getting hurt, and of course, a couple weeks ago.
Okay. In experience, is this patient with other people who live in your neighborhood? Or can you say?
I wouldn't be able to say that.
A couple times, frequently, you've come into contact with something this way.
I mean, in terms of noise, I would say 4, maybe even 5 times. Those occasions are less frequent, but enough to be concerned.
Apprehensive on the days.
Again, I hear music and I hear bass during the evening. I am.
You have a that particular incident affected kind of.
Absolutely. I have a wife and we're considering starting a family, and to know that house, I'm concerned. Again, I would my house could be caught at night up. Emergency personnel come through and not knowing what happened, but being terrified of what was in my house. Wonderful. Has grown. That community's grown. Been some houses built as well recently. I think I've even play in the area, even very close.
Are there anything services for kids in the community?
Oh yeah, I mean there's multiple schools. Westminster Public School District. Not far as well. A lot of different. I think there's also a public.
About what would be helpful to the board.
I think that should have everything I could say. Yeah.
Thank you. Questions for you.
Okay.
Who has me? Years around research the street where those apartments are, because so if you think you're living in a and you don't live directly across the street from the bar. Corner.
Get everyone's attention. Just wonder whether procedurally we're getting. But if you can
Yeah,
also testify.
getting-
Oh, she's getting attention. I just-
Yes, I am.
Okay, Mike,
So-
Mike,
Bar and
Okay.
Grill.
so when
Sports Watch Bar and Grill. And as far as like questions that I asked Zach, was Zach on the bar 6 times that I have looked at the phone records, noise. Question to you is, you have known of any disturbances with the apartment building right across from your? No. Those at that time. So I was just questioning that. And then so say that for you living across the street from the bar, you say
So I would say, to go back to your pre, in terms of again, I try not to pay too much attention, as most of the time I see, if people are yelling in what seems like an aggressive manner, it means that they could be
and the question is, pardon?
turn the music down.
So as far as like, let me see what I blanked out. You spoke and I blanked out. So oh, I know what. Okay, so you told us just now that the bar's not even open 4 times a week. In the time that you sent 4 times a week. So on Mondays, the bar is not open. The bar is, it's Friday, Saturday, but those are basically the days. So when you said it threw me off.
answer your question there. I would say I'm not responsible every time for every noise infection. Of course, there's different levels to, and especially like I said, based upon say during those maybe not consistently 4 times a week, but often it happens with COVID and everything. Of course, this can be inconsistent. That's my best estimate based on my experience.
And how long ago did you move into this apartment? You're right?
I am a renter, yes.
How long ago did you move?
It's been,
Okay. I've been 3.5 years at length. So. Questions.
No,
Yes,
but thank you,
John.
Zach, for coming on.
Can do that. John, be able to speak.
Mr. Chair, before Mr. Horvat begins, and I'm just special counsel for the board tonight. The city in any manner. They're not really sort of testifying. You're not a trained lawyer, but try to focus on just asking questions to a witness that will elicit information. The information. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks.
Mr. Brian, is it okay if he goes next? Are you okay with that if we have him sworn in?
Thank you. That would be perfect.
Okay.
All right. So I can swear you in so that you can provide testimony.
Yes,
Do you swear in a incorrect?
I do.
Spell your name and address for the record.
It's John Horvat, Horvat.
Whose phone is
I'm
that?
getting a lot of
There's a
feedback.
lot of background noise.
If everybody that's not testifying, maybe try to mute your phone, that your mics right now while he's testifying, that would be helpful.
Go ahead.
If we could get board member Velez to mute, that would probably help.
Who needed to, someone needed to mute. I didn't hear that name.
John, the last list.
John, can you mute your computer right now? And then Mr. Back, you just finish with your address, that would be good. We might have lost Mr. Horvat again.
Okay,
Yeah, let's go on with your next witness then.
Next witness then will, Dylan, Shalaf. Want to try to get that last name right? Please.
Mr. Zalowski, can I swear you in so you can,
Yes, sir.
please raise your right hand and swear and affirm that the testimony you're about to give is true and correct? And please say your name and address.
Dylan, D-Y-L-A-N, Shalofsky, S-H-E-L-O-F as in Frank, S as in Sam, K-Y. And my address is 6780 Mid Circle, Unit A.
Okay, you may continue.
Thank you. Ms. Lufke, would you describe what is your physical proximity to your residence to Scotch Farm?
I live about 130 feet across 68th.
Okay, and from that location,
Yeah, we can see it from multiple bedrooms of our home.
okay, and when you're not seeing it and it is in operation, can you hear it?
Yes, we often can hear it, and we can also feel the reverb from at the bar and throughout our house.
When you say we can feel it, I'm gonna, for just a little more detail, what happens in your house when the bass is on?
I mean, it'll make a TV buzz. You can feel the shake of the bass even in the floor sometimes.
And you use the word feel, I presume you mean that there's a physical sensation to the bass in your house?
Yes.
Okay. You wrote a statement where you described it as a concert level noise. Why did you pick those words?
Often when they host live music events, we can even hear the words of the MCs that are there. We can hear, if they have performers, we can hear the lyrics from that far away while we're inside our home.
Home is not, is that fair to say?
Yeah, I would say it's really close.
So do you feel like the noise here is unusual? I mean, other bars have DJs and music. Does this stand out to you for a reason other than it's close to your house?
I mean, it definitely stands out. I lived in New York City for 5 years by the George Washington Bridge and was never able to hear the traffic. I'm able to hear, sometimes verbatim what's happening across the scene out of the building area.
Okay, and then have you been in another kind of, or been near another establishment like?
Yeah.
Okay. You had mentioned that one of the concerns that with what's happening is that over the last year, when there have been COVID-19 limitations, that you have observed that it doesn't appear those are covered at Sports Bar and Grill. Can you describe your observations?
Yeah, we've noticed that throughout the pandemic, there have been times where the parking lot has been full of people, or we can hear music that is happening well past when the governor set the last call orders.
And then, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Is there anything, any other, besides just, what you hear, does their Sports Bar present other problems for you as a person who lives near it?
Yeah, I mean, on March 6th, which was my 29th birthday, I woke up to gunshots and then suddenly floods of police and emergency vehicle lights. And that really hit close to home because I'm a teacher in our community, and the community is really, really important to me. We're within, a block, high school, half a block. And I know how violent events like this, reverberate in our community. And so it just is super important to me. Like my fifth graders that, you know, our consequences have actions. And I just know that events like this is on those who live in our community.
Terrible event that has caused you concern, or have there been other things there that have led to you?
Yeah, I mean, there's been other events where people are yelling and screaming in the middle of the night on the patio, or you know, you'll hear cars floor it out of their parking lot, and so it just does not feel like a safe, calm place that's in the midst of a residential area.
Have you had to do anything inside your house to try to, you know, essentially make it a little better that sports watch up there?
Yeah, our landlords had to install a storm door on our outside door. We've got sound dampening curtains, sound machine for our house, and a fan. I've gotten to the point now, sometimes with the volume of the noise, especially, I have to, and there have been times too where the bass has been so heavy that it almost is anxiety, because especially working in a profession where I have to wake up, you know, and be there for about an hour. So.
How long have you been at your address?
June 2000.
Okay, and in the time you've been there, any essentially opinion of the neighborhood otherwise?
Oh my gosh, we absolutely love our neighborhood and we love our community, and we made a specific choice to live in the community in which we teach, because it's so important to us. Our neighbors are wonderful. You know, our HOA is incredible. We've built relationships. Our specifically growing, and there's so many young families moving in, and it just, you know, otherwise I think is a great place.
In the changes you've seen just in 2019, do you have whether Sports Watch Bar and Grill serves the community?
You know, businesses support the communities that they live in.
So I just want to be clear, is it your opinion that these are near a bar, or that they shouldn't be sports bar?
They should live in Sports Watch Bar and Grill.
Do you have an opinion whether the board should renew the liquor license for Sports Watch Bar and Grill?
I think that the board should not renew the liquor license for. Board should not.
Thank you. Ms. Vernon, if you have any questions.
Yes, I do. So my name is Susan, owner of Sports Watch Bar and Grill. Do you have a base noise meter or a test meter to test the noise that you're getting in your house?
Yeah, we downloaded a decibel meter on one of our phones.
Okay. And are you not doing that at this time?
I do not have that at this time.
Okay. And how do you know that the parking lot was filled with cars and I'm in violation of COVID? How do you know that?
Because I watched patrons from the bar exit at 11 after the last call hour.
I don't have any proof of that?
Not physically, no.
Okay. And let's see, what else did I have to ask you? Do you know about the police reports within the surrounding areas around there? Have you looked at any police reports with any criminal activity within your, let's just say, half-mile radius of your?
Yeah, I mean, I've heard about things, whether they're
No, not heard. Have you pulled the reports?
I have not.
Okay. All right. All right. That's the only questions I have.
Thank you.
Hey, this board member Brown, I do have a question to the applicant. So when you say just a half block away, or a block away, is that from your house or from the bar? I'm sorry. My apologies.
Board Member Brown, I think you should hold on to that question. This is Keith Martin. I think Mr. Horvat's still on the line. That's what's causing the feedback. If he could maybe.
Horrible noise.
I know that he's offline.
I think he's better now.
Okay. Okay.
If Board Member Brown could ask his question again, I think we have a better record now.
Witness, well, you said that the half block away and a block away, is that from your house or Sports Watch Bar and Grill?
I think they're both synonymous. I think, you know, the school is closer to the bar and the high school is closer to our home.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
For business. This is Dave. Does the business operation disturb you to sleep?
Yes, sir.
Can you describe that for the board?
I mean, sometimes if I'm even able to fall asleep when the noise and the heavy bass is happening, which it's very difficult to fall asleep, I'm often awoken by it, and then it's very, very difficult. I think the vibration of bass specifically kind of puts on edge, and so it's very difficult then to fall.
As a follow-up, how often are you hear the noise in the manner you've described?
I mean, the pandemic has affected it, but when the bar was in full operation, it would be when they would have me Tuesdays, Thursdays, Fridays, Saturdays were the primary times where the noise was especially impactful.
And is it that there haven't been no noise complaints since COVID?
No, there have been noise complaints since COVID,
Just fewer.
just fewer.
Thank you. Ms. Fernandez, do you have any other questions or any board?
I have a question. This is Jan. Where is school at?
It's called Hopkins Elementary School. It's right on the east side of Lowell.
Where at Low? Like
It's on the opposite side of Lowell. So it's right up. If you keep driving, like Lowell, and then you take your first left, it's right there. It's a very large building. It's hard to miss.
That's up the hill. Because I was gonna say I didn't see any. That's why I asked the question. Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Should we try with Mr. Horvath again? We have no other witness here. Okay. Then we did have one other potential witness who was going to try, Lisa Hieronyma, who was going to try to come in remotely, and I'd heard her name earlier.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes.
Perfect. So my name is Elisa Hieronyma.
Let the chairman swear you in, please.
Sure.
So, can you place your right hand? Please raise your right hand.
Yes.
Do you swear and affirm that the test you're about to give is true and correct?
Yes.
Please spell your name and address for the record.
Alisa, Alisa, Heronema, Heronema, and I live at 6780 Mead Circle, Unit Westminster, Colorado 800.
Thank you. You may continue.
Could you describe where your house is in relation to Sports Watch?
Sure. So I am next to where Dylan and Zach live. So just a unit west of their unit off of 68th.
Okay. And have you had, from there, can you see and hear Sports Watch Bar and Grill?
Yes.
And has that caused you any?
Yes.
Can you describe, just generally, what it is that has caused you concern living next to Sports Watch Bar and Grill?
Primarily safety. I moved to the area because of its close proximity to downtown and highways and public transportation. So notably the B line, which is within walking distance. And I've felt concern walking near or past the watch where it's to go to the B line or come back or simply take my dog out, especially at night.
And is that just because it's a bar or something about what's happening at that bar?
I would say particularly with it being the Sports Watch, I've lived here for 4.5 years now, so it has always been a bar, but within the past 2 years, I would say there's been more cause for concern, more disruptions.
Okay. Have you ever yourself called the police about what you've described as disruptions?
Yes.
Has that happened, more now than before?
Yeah, I believe I made a call within the past year.
Okay. And what is your experience there?
Fortunately, because of my location being a little bit further away and sandwiched, I don't experience quite the noise disruption, but and that's just with my windows closed. In the summertime, if we have open, we can definitely hear quite a bit.
Did you? However, it seems as though the issue that you're seeing related to essentially who's there. Now, is there anything about the individuals at Sports that you've observed it being kind of different from your community in general?
Yeah, I would say that obviously with the recent circumstance that occurred, but others additionally being ones that seem elevated or escalated and potential for harm. And I think that this is not something I have felt besides these past 2 years. I think that it kind of it makes me more nervous, more cautious when walking by, especially. Makes me think about when I get home, turning on my lights to let those know who at the front porch where I live.
What there were kind of events that are related to what kinds of things have caused you concern, in addition to the shooting that has been brought up?
Yeah, so definitely the escalations in physical, like fights and whatnot. So besides the recent shooting, I think that's the reason I called before, was a fight had escalated, whether it was on that patio or within the adjacent parking lot. And then just kind of concern for my safety with walking kind of nearby, like cat calls or kind of concern for assault, things like that.
Are the issues that you're describing, do they affect your enjoyment of your home?
Yeah, definitely.
Do you, how do you feel about your neighborhood?
I really like it. I've really enjoyed the past 4.5 years that I've lived here. For the most part, it's really welcoming and positive, and I think it continues to make changes that are positive for the community.
You've talked about those some positive changes down there. Is this a neighborhood that, from your point of view, is kind of changing for the better?
I believe so.
Do you see Sports Watch changing along with that neighborhood?
I hope that it can, but so far it hasn't.
Okay. Do you have an opinion right now about whether or not Sports Watch should continue to have a liquor license? If it's that liquor license should be renewed?
I do not think that it should be renewed.
Thank you. Do you have any other experiences with Sports Watch Bar and Grill that you think this board would appreciate knowing about?
I think the primary ones.
Thank you. Ms. Ford can ask you some questions, so I'll turn it over to her if she's
Okay. So I'm Susan Fernand. I'm owner of Sports Watch Bar and Grill. I've had it for 3.5 years. So when you say you're walking at night, what time are you walking at night?
Typically around 5 p.m.
10? Okay. And what time, is that about what time you're walking your dog? Because you mentioned you're walking your dog.
Yeah, it can be.
Okay. And where did you witness, what time and where did you witness this fight? Were you inside because you said you were sandwiched in between and you're a little further back in your home?
Mhm.
So where were you when you supposedly witnessed this fight or loud noise, or what, and about what time was that?
I can't recall what time, but I was in my living room, which is the closest north, I guess, to 68th. I have windows and a sliding glass door. In this particular fight, I could hear with those windows and doors closed. So that's what made me concerned.
Okay.
So from my space, I can see the bar and saw a fight was ensuing.
And have you pulled any police reports from the general area around a half-mile radius from where you live? Have you pulled any police reports, criminal reports, anything like that when you talk about safety of the area, and you've been there for a while?
Yes.
You have pulled those reports?
Yes, but I don't have them in front of me, so I can't.
Okay. All right. Other questions?
Thank you.
Okay.
John, are you online that you can speak? John Horvat, are you available and online to speak?
I did have a question for the witness on that. Is she still available?
Yes, I am still here.
When you said that, I just have a quick question just for clarification. When you said that you witnessed an altercation in the parking lot and the parking lot adjacent to there, is the parking lot adjacent to there owned by Sports Watch Bar and Grill, or is that parking lot adjacent to there somebody else's property?
I don't know the answer to that question.
So is the parking lot adjacent to there? How can you prove that the parking lot adjacent to there was their clients or was their people from their bar?
I can't.
All right, thank you.
Mhm.
I have a question for the witness.
Sure.
You have the right to open the radio. So can you explain to the board if the amplified noise from the bar is carrying off the property?
Sorry, what was the last part of that question? I didn't hear.
If the noise from the bar is leaving the bar property and bothering or disturbing residents and folks that are beyond the property lines of the bar.
Yes, absolutely. We particularly keep.
Thank you.
Mr. Horvat, are you still available to be interviewed or provide testimony? Pardon me. Doesn't appear. Well, it appears that Mr. Horvat might be self-muted again. I had a question, Mr. Martin, for you. There are some comments that have been made in the chat kind of section of GoToWebinar. I don't know if those just or if they should be read in or how we should proceed with that.
What comments from whom?
It appears that one group appears that they might be the owners based off of the owners of the property that Zach and Dylan live in, based on, I heard the names mentioned. And I guess all those comments are from them.
Okay, yeah, my concern is that the city prosecution has produced a witness list to the licensee. That witness list identifies 12 potential witnesses. The owners of the property, I guess, where Mr. Levinson and Ms. Shalofsky live, were not on that list. So I'd have concerns if they were allowed to present testimony, having not been identified, and just for purposes of fairness and to give licensee an ability to adequately prepare. She may not have anticipated that they'd be a witness. So
Okay.
I would probably recommend the board not consider those comments.
Okay. Mr. Bromstrom, or if you presented all of your witnesses, because it doesn't appear that we're able to reconnect or hear Mr. Horvat.
What I'm going to ask to do is ask the board to look at the package of exhibits here, and at the end of that, so if you were to go to the last, what I'm seeing as 4 pages, there is an email that is entitled, or that says, from Talent West. That email is from Debbie Lease, and she is an identified witness, and she is associated with East Bay Townhomes, as is Mr. Horvat. And so what I'd like to do is just kind of point out, really read into I'll defer to the board here and not use the time, but point out that the concerns here there are as community representatives, and that they're as president and vice president of an HOA, you can see both of them, and that they've reached out. So I'm going to ask the board to pay attention that there have been efforts by this HOA to try to create a relationship with Sports Watch Bar and Grill to try to address the ongoing noise issues. They also particularize several issues there about the crowd, the improvements in the neighborhood, and that they, and a suggestion if for the board. So I'm going to ask the board to review that in lieu of that testimony at this time. And then I would move on to Detective Gordon.
So I would just make one comment. It sounds like the city prosecutor, excuse me, would like to mark those particular comments, emails as exhibits and introduce them as part of the record. Is that fair to say?
That is fair.
Okay. Which I think for purposes of the hearing and what I would recommend to the board, that's fine. I think the licensee should have an opportunity to object to the introduction of those exhibits though.
Okay, certainly. So then I will formally ask for admission of the last 5 pages of this. I will call it City's Exhibit 1 and turn it over for objections.
Susan, have you had a chance to review the document he's speaking about and have any objections?
And so I think the chairman can simply state that having heard no objections, the exhibits are entered into the record, or the exhibit 1 is entered into the record.
Susan, it appears that you might be muted again.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Okay, yes, I want to object to the exhibit. Can I speak? Hello?
Yes, go ahead and state your objection.
So, Mr. I guess, I don't know I can't say his last name, Mark, barely gave me these documents, like I said, day before yesterday. So I was able to print them out, read through them, look through them. I have not been able to address it. So I want to object because the fact that her name is Debbie Lease. She's not part of this as the witness or whatever Mark was trying to put her in. So that's new to me. This is just an email that, I'm reading it, they supposedly sent me a letter, which I never got. I don't have a mailbox on the front of my bar. So if they tossed it in the patio, there's patrons that go in my patio. Can you hear me?
Yes,
Okay.
yes. Is it
So-
then, do you have more to say? Go ahead, Susan.
Yeah, so my question is to Mark, can you tell me if I'm looking at the exhibits you're talking about that you want to try to have the board read? Can you tell me, Mark?
Can I tell you? Yes,
Yeah.
I am asking the board to read the email. I guess I'm confused what else you're asking.
You're presenting to the board exhibits. What exact exhibits are you presenting to the board?
At this time, I'm asking the board to consider this email that, and last 5 pages that's from Debbie Lease. And I will just point out that at the kind of hearing we are at, hearsay is admissible. And if the board would find that hearing from Ms. Lease or Mr. Horvat would materially change its position or inform its decision, it'd be up to the board to decide that we should have another hearing on the same matter. So I would ask for the purposes of today just to accept this email for what it is. And if there are questions about it, underlying it, that would be my suggestion solution. We've had technical problems. It was my intention to present Mr. Horvat to present this matter personally.
I read the first 2 pages. I don't have the last 3, I guess. And it's just an email, but yeah, go ahead and present it to the board. They can read it. I'm okay with that. It's just an email from Talent West to, I guess, I really don't know. But the pages that I'm seeing are just stating that they sent me a letter to negotiate the noise back in 10/14/2020. Is that what you're bringing towards? Is that the exhibit you're talking about, Mark?
That is included in the exhibit. The exhibit was was sent to you by Ms. Barajas today, the entirety of it, because part of it is an email that was received. And so there are, I don't know, a page here that I'm not certain exactly what you're looking at, and a photograph of a picture, a sign, I believe, that is in the window of your bar that says "Notice to all patrons." So that is the exhibit that was sent this afternoon.
Okay. Then no, because I don't have that exhibit with me. And whatever you sent me over the email, I printed today. So that exhibit did not come in this email because I would have it with me, and I don't.
I feel like I'm mudding the record and would prefer some direction from the board about what to do next.
This is Board Member Brown. I personally think we're here today. We've taken the opportunity to hear this. She agreed to the hearing tonight. I would like to hear the evidence.
Thank you. I'm going to read this into the record, if I may. Please accept the following statement for the hearing on Sportswatch Bar. I'm the Vice President of East Bay Townhomes HOA. I've received a lot of feedback from our community regarding the noise, the safety, and curfew violations and after-hours parties. We are opposed to granting Susan Fernand's a liquor license based on the following: noise pollution in the neighborhood. And she goes on to describe a letter on October 14th, 2020. We reached out to peacefully resolve this and received no response. Prior to this date, our neighbors have called the Westminster Police Department on many occasions. I will let the board read her letter. She then goes on to point number 2, the bar attacks a tough crowd. Those who in the neighborhood have wanted to support the bar have been met by patrons who have told us that we don't belong there and even said we should leave. I'm attaching a photo of a sign posted at the door. If she had not had previous problems, then why would she post this particular sign? And the sign describes rules of decorum in the establishment. Each of these items highlights exactly why she should not be granted a license. Could shooting deaths have been prevented? Her third point is the neighborhood's changing for the better with new families moving in. East Bay presently has 26 homes with 5 more soon to be finished. Plus, we are next to Westminster High School and an elementary school on East 68th Ave. The type of bar does not serve our communities, and we are less safe here. The shooting of people recently at the bar property also proved this. And her fourth point was that she believes that bars and restaurants need to operate with a good neighbor agreement on file and abide by noise ordinance laws, the smoking ban within 25 feet of the door, and keeping outdoor areas clean. Sportswatch Bar has violated all of these. She asked that if you decide to renew the license, they request a signed good neighbor agreement to understand, so that Sports Watch understands the laws, rules, and will follow them. She adds that she would love to see a safe, clean, and more attractive lunch or dinner restaurant or bar service at that location. So that is the statement that I'm going to offer with regard to East Bay Townhomes, and those would be witnesses John Horvath and Debbie Weiss. With that, I'm going to move on to Detective Gordonier.
Chairman Amin, do you want to go ahead and swear in Detective Gordonier? Or any board members that, if you could try to, yeah, thank you.
Troy, can you raise your right hand, please? Do you swear and affirm the testimony you're about to receive is true and correct?
I do. Troy Gordonier, Liquor Enforcement Officer on behalf of the city.
Sir, can you describe what you do with regard to licenses and license enforcement in the city of Westminster?
Part of the responsibilities that I have involves the liquor enforcement, which does cause a review of all the liquor licenses within the city. Whether they're a new license, a special permit, transfers of licenses, as well as renewals of licenses. So every year, a liquor license in the city comes up for renewal, and then those are presented to me so that I can review them and make a report back to the city clerk.
And do you have involvement with, you've described a variety of licenses, do you have involvement with those license holders to some degree?
Yes, I do.
And with regard to liquor licenses, is it ever part of your responsibilities to investigate concerns that might be raised by a neighborhood?
Yes, it is.
Tell me about the scope. What do you look into if you become aware that a neighborhood is concerned?
If I'm receiving complaints about a licensee, I'll follow up with the complainant to figure out exactly what the issue is. Then I will look at what we call calls for service in order to see during that evaluation period for that renewal, which is a year, I will look over that year to see what our calls for service have been at that establishment and how many calls for service have been there.
Okay. Is that something that is paid attention to by the police department for a reason? Why do you pay attention to how many incidents are in a place?
It's important to do that so that you can recognize if there are problems. In this case, at a liquor establishment, we also statistics from all over the city to help with analysis in order to provide police services to an area, whether we might increase services or decrease services.
Is it an effort, is tracking all essentially incidents an effort toward fairness for license holders in general?
Yes, it is.
Tell me about how that works.
So when in a case like this where a license is been applied for renewal, I go back during that year of renewal period and I run basically a report that gives me all the incidents that are associated with that licensee's address.
And that would be true for any address where there's a license. You could make a similar type of report.
Yeah, for licenses.
Okay. And if you become concerned or if there's a complaint, and you look at the number of incidents, are you able to determine if there are more incidents at one location than another?
I am. When I run the report, it'll show typically a high number of calls. And therefore I have to go through each call in order to determine if that specific call is related directly to that licensee.
Okay, so it sounds like it's fairly labor intensive to make sure that the things that are reflected in terms of call volume are then accurately described as an incident.
Correct.
Okay, and do you have forms to report
The report that I generate for calls for service.
Okay. And I'm going to ask you, if you would, to take a look through. Well, let me ask you before I go on to that. Do you have access to police reports and other kinds of things when they would pertain to a license holder?
Yes, I do.
You have prepared a packet that I have provided in the exhibits that is quite a few pages long. Begins in the upper right-hand corner with P2019, a long number, and then there's following as similar documents and some police reports. Can you just look through that and tell me if you recognize what that collection of documents represents?
Yes. So once I determine, I go through and determine exactly which calls for service relate directly to the licensee, I'm able to print off a report which is similar to this. And that report there is directly pulled from our dispatch. And that is basically information call note. So it's what the call taker, the dispatcher, it's what they type into the computer when they dispatch a call for service to a location.
When you compiled that, were you careful with compiling this in the way you've described? I mean, do you believe that those incidents are fairly attributable to the operation of Sports Watch Bar and Grill?
Yes, I do.
Okay. And with regard to their regularity, is that something that the police department gathers regularly and that you rely on with regard to when you deal with any license holder, not just Sports Watch Bar?
Yes, this is a normal part of our business.
Okay. I'm going to ask to introduce as the city's exhibit number 2, these documents, event information documents. In terms of how it was produced to the board, my belief would be it would be the page maybe behind police department memorandum that had a witness list on it, and then goes until the email that was admitted as city's exhibit number 1. I guess I'm raising that for objections.
Yeah, it sounds like we're having problems with the chair, so maybe the vice chair can ask if there are any objections and hear those objections, and then either decide to enter or not enter them into the record.
Do we have any objections to this exhibit?
No.
Perfect. Thank you. Mary Joy, can you go ahead and enter that into the record? Mary Joy, you're muted. We can't hear you.
I'm sorry, I was trying to text someone. Can you restate what the exhibit was? I apologize.
The exhibit begins with event information. And it's a page that looks like this with a black box
Okay.
in the middle of it. The exhibit is quite lengthy and ends with a unique document for the exhibit packet provided that looks like this. And so that would bookend the exhibit.
Thank you. And hearing that there's no objections to that, Mary Joy, can you enter that into the record now, please?
Yes.
And looking at this, were you able to determine how many concern at Sports Watch Bar and Grill? How many?
Can we pause for 1 second, please?
Sure.
We can't understand anything. There's a lot of feedback, and I can't understand anything that's being said. I don't know if anyone else is having the same issue.
Yes, I am.
Can everybody just make sure their phones are on mute or their computers are on mute? All right, go ahead. Let's try this again.
Thank you. How many incidents occurred at Sports Watch Bar and Grill during this license year?
So once I finished evaluating all of it, I came up with 26 incidents over the period of time of December 1st, 2019 to December 31st of 2020.
In your estimation and experience working with license holders generally, does that number by itself cause you concern?
Yes, it does.
Presumably that's because it's significant. When you say cause any concern, do you consider things like the neighborhood it's in?
I do.
Do you look at other bars to see what kinds of incident rate they have or how many incidents they had?
I do.
And so what, in terms of that number, what can you tell us about why that number should matter to the board?
That number is pretty significant for area bars that are within that neighborhood. It's about 4 times higher than the other bars that you could compare it to.
Okay. And when you say at bars that you can compare it to, do you make an effort to try to compare it to similarly situated bars that would face similar business challenges?
Yes.
Okay. Does that include, essentially neighborhoods where there are other kinds of incidents generally?
Yes.
Okay. Did you make a comparison here?
I did.
And what bars did you compare it to?
So the Casey's Lounge was one, the Outpost Bar was another, and the Guadalajara Sports Bar.
And why did you choose those 3? What stood out?
Those 3 are licensees within the city, and they are within the general area of Sports Watch.
And when we say general area, I earlier asked you what they might have kind of some similar business environment. Would you, just from your working in the city of Westminster dealing with these establishments, agree or disagree that, whether they're kind of similarly situated in that way?
I'm very familiar with that neighborhood and the areas around each of the bars I mentioned, and they are very similar in nature as far as demographics.
Have you been dealing with the license holders of those other 3 establishments?
Not in the manner of what we have here with Sports Watch.
Okay. Now, do these documents that have been provided as Exhibit 2, do they give any information about what happened?
Yes, they do.
Okay, so first of all, is noise appear to be a problem from your review of these documents?
Noise is the primary issue with 15 noise complaints that were documented during that period of time.
And is that in itself unusual?
That is unusual.
Can you determine if all 15 were from one single individual?
So in many of the complaints, the person calling it in, their name is documented on dispatch documents them, and those are on the event information sheet.
Okay. Would you pay attention if maybe there was like someone who seemed to have it in for an establishment? Was that something you'd pick up on from going through these documents?
I would see if we have somebody who's consistently calling in.
Okay. And did you get the impression that this is an individual with a grudge or a issue where Sports Watch is viewed with some suspicion in the community?
Viewed with some suspicion in the community.
Okay. Beyond noise, was there anything else that stood out to you about the quality of the things that happened there in terms of their seriousness?
We did have other calls for service during that period of time. And as I had outlined in my original report, I broke down the calls as to what the calls for service were, and tried to describe a little bit about some of them where what is typed in by the dispatcher, and then based on what the call notes are, a description so that it would understand exactly what the dispatcher typed in as far as the type of call.
Are the types of calls you are seeing associated with Sports Watch Bar and Grill more or less severe than the types of calls for service that are, general in your experience?
Some of the calls for service would be similar to what we would expect from this type of an establishment. However, their number appears to be higher than the ones that I had mentioned that were within that area.
Okay. Is there any particular concerns with regard to like firearms or anything like that?
Yes, there is.
What have you observed in reviewing the various incidents that occurred at Sports Watch during this period of time?
So during the time period that I had mentioned, we did in fact have a shooting that occurred at the Sports Watch Bar.
Okay. And were there other incidents where guns were featured or suspected in your review of these documents?
There were, during some of the call notes, a couple of times it was mentioned that they believe somebody may have a gun.
Is there anything that you have seen the bar do that makes you believe that they share your concern or share that concern about guns?
No, I don't believe that they share the concern.
Okay. Does the bar have any security?
Yes, they do.
Okay. And is it the kind of security in terms of the way they dress and behave that you see in other establishments in the city?
No.
What stands out about this security team?
So the security that has been observed at Sports Watch Bar is similar in the fashion that they wear a polo that identifies them as security. They also are armed with handguns, which open carry, and that does occur on occasion at other bars. However, Sports Watch, the security team there, was also armed with rifles that they would carry slung across their chest.
And paying attention to something like that, is that because, if any, a distaste for guns in the bar, or the symbolism of the bar owner having heavily armed security to run its operation?
I don't know why they would believe they would need to have security that's armed such as that in their establishment.
But if this board were to go through these incident reports, would they see incidents where guns were associated with Sports Watch Bar and Grill?
Yes, they would.
Okay. Where shootings, including accidental shootings, had occurred at Sports Watch Bar and Grill?
That's correct.
We've talked about comparing Sports Watch Bar and Grill to other bars in terms of the severity of the incidents that you determined from going through this. Do you think that there's a bar where you could make a similar comparison in terms of severity?
In terms of severity, I don't have another licensee in the city that would have the severity that Sports Watch has had.
Does law enforcement investigate incidents like the ones we're discussing now?
Yes.
And does law enforcement communicate with dispatch such that you can learn something about that from reviewing these reports?
Yes.
Okay. And did you come to any kind of opinion or conclusion about whether or not Sports Watch is cooperating with law enforcement, really supporting that mission when it's there doing these investigations?
During many of these, Ms. Fernan was contacted by an officer, and in particular about noise complaints. And she would acknowledge, or someone from her staff would acknowledge, the officer reporting that, we received calls of, for instance, a noise complaint. However, it continued on. The fact that these noise complaints showed that they were cooperating with law enforcement and with the neighborhood and keeping the noise down.
We've mentioned more serious events that have been investigated there. Are there police reports pertaining to those more serious events included in this exhibit? Yes, there are. From reading those police reports and otherwise looking at the notes here, did you get an opinion of whether the staff at Sports Watch is cooperative, will assist?
In most instances, it does appear that if something is occurring at the bar, besides a noise complaint, we do get a phone call from the bar. Typically, it's from Ms. Fernan. However, other staff, it does not appear that we get consistent cooperation from staff based on some of the more serious investigations that we've had there.
Does it concern you when you kind of go through that packet? Is there a pattern that concerns you?
There is a pattern that warnings that officers have given in regards to various things have been ignored by the establishment.
When was there any investigation about pertaining to COVID restrictions surrounding this bar?
There was I believe a couple complaints filed, and those were forwarded to the Tri-County Health.
Okay. Does that concern you in terms of this overall kind of concern of dealing with the neighborhood productively?
It does, because on one of the calls and in that packet, there is a what we call a field interview card that was conducted by one of the officers who noted in particular, one, the noise, and two, that he observed that the bar was packed with patrons. He spoke to Miss Fernan, and she made some sort of statement to him that she thought those restrictions had been lifted. And I believe, if I remember correctly, that was in December of 2020.
Do bars have a choice about, can they trespass people from their establishment if they have been disruptive?
Yes, they have that option.
And does any of this information, the exhibit, talk about whether or not trespass notices were in fact desired by the bar?
Remember exactly if there was or not.
Okay. If something was written in here pertaining to a trespass notice, meaning if it said that the bar did not want a trespass, is that the same kind of we've talked about before where you would rely on it in the course of your duties?
Yes.
Okay. And so if this board were to go through this packet and see that there were instances where the license holder was declining to have disruptive individuals trespassed, would that mean anything to you? Would that be a concern?
It would be a concern because it would not appear that the establishment is trying to keep people out of the establishment that cause problems within there.
Is that something that you frankly would expect to see with an establishment that individuals who had been called on would then subsequently be trespassed to prevent future problems?
Yes, that is something I've seen before, and I would expect to see that.
Okay. And when you say you'd expect to see it, that you think that's is it fair to say, do you think it's a responsibility of a license holder to make sure that individuals who are causing a problem no longer come to that establishment?
Yes, because that would be part of their conduct of establishment that we would look at.
Okay. Well, in some, did you did it appear that Sports Watch Bar and Grill was operating consistent with the neighborhood it's in?
No, did not.
And tell me a little bit about the neighborhood it's in terms of your perspective of it.
So the neighborhood around there, up until the last recent couple of years, it's a very, most people there work. I would consider a blue collar type neighborhood. There's various apartment buildings around that neighborhood. There's various houses in that neighborhood that would range from what you may consider low income to middle income. And then recently, in the last couple of years, there has been some development on the south side of 58th Avenue, across the street from Sports Watch and to the west, that are of homes and townhomes that would be of higher value than other parts of the neighborhood.
Do you believe that the changes in the neighborhood are generally positive?
Yes, I do. In the city, that is an area of the city where they've been doing a lot of development in order to make the area better.
Does that include the light rail that's down there?
It does include the light rail.
Okay. And just your presence in the city, has that led you to believe that things essentially are somewhat different there, because of those investments, that the neighborhood is rapidly changing?
They are different. It's adding population. It's adding additional businesses to that whole area, economic development type.
Does all that economic development, are you seeing kind of a similar trajectory to Sports Watch Bar and Grill, or is the culmination of your investigation suggested it's not kind of meeting the needs of this neighborhood?
That would be my opinion, is that it's not meeting the needs of the neighborhood.
Okay. Is the information that you prepared in here, I just want to make sure that everything in here, this was, you listened to how many phone calls before you were able to isolate these, I think, 27 issues pertaining to this bar?
I listened to phone calls from, I spoke with people in the neighborhood who had complaints, and then I went through each of these calls. They weren't phone calls that I listened to, but I went through the record that was reported from police reports and also from the event information from dispatch.
So these reflect essentially 26 very small investigations into things that had happened at Sports Watch Bar and Grill?
Yes.
And by reading these remarks, would this board get a good sense of essentially what you learned and put themselves kind of closer to where you are in terms of knowledge about the concerns?
Yes.
Thank you. I have no further questions at this time. Ms. Vernon, if you'd like to ask Detective Gordonier some questions.
Yes, I would. Hi, I'm Susan Fernan. I'm the owner of Sports Watch Bar and Grill. My first question is, have you, so you're saying that there was 15 noise complaints?
Yes.
Okay. Out of those 15 complaints, who was complaining?
Do you want me to name each of the complainants in that?
Yes.
So some were from a witness that was heard tonight, Dawn Shalofsky.
How many?
I'll need a minute to go through all these.
I went through it. I believe there's 6 on Dylan, but
Okay,
you can calculate. And
I'm fine with 6.
okay, what about Zach?
I'll need to count each one.
There was 6 on Zach. Okay,
Okay,
so that was that's 12. So then that leaves 3. of the 15 noise complaints. So you mentioned that, or Mark mentioned that if somebody was out to not like your establishment, would you be fair to say that with 6 calls from Zach and 6 calls from Dylan, and I have the dates and times, I did my research. And then there's 4 anonymous calls, 3 refused, and 1, it doesn't have anything on, anonymous. So would you say it's fair to be that these phone calls from 6 and 6, and then 4, that somebody just doesn't like Sports Watch to be there because it's not part of their neighborhood?
I can't speak to their motive.
Okay, that's fine. So as far as firearms, and you said in the parking lot, I believe you said in the parking lot, how many incidents did they actually report that they discovered firearms in the parking lot? Which the parking lot is not mine. Mine is just the inside of the building. But I'm just questioning, I question you about the firearms, and you said in the parking lot. How many of those incidents that you tallied in this report that were actual firearm, I have to say proof, because that's what I want. I don't want hearsay. How much of that do you, on your report, were actual firearms?
First, I didn't say parking lot. There was a shooting that occurred within the establishment. And then most recently, there was the shooting
Outside.
it was in the parking lot. However, the incident began inside the bar. And then I'd have to go back through each of these calls, but
Let me correct you. Okay, so I'm going to ask you this because I'm supposed to ask questions, not come up with assumptions. Okay, so when you said that the incident started in the bar, how do you know that it started in the bar?
that's based on the investigation that has been conducted during the incident.
Now, aren't we talking about my question to you is, are we talking about January of 2019? I mean, the last year, which has nothing to do with 2021. Okay. So it would be January to January, or December, January of 2019 to 20, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So why are you bringing up an incident for 2021 when we're trying to work on the last year?
The reason that has been added is because I had started this process prior to that incident, and the incident was a continuance of the investigation.
Okay. So how many, have you done a criminal investigation, or maybe that's the wrong word. Have you done a criminal report within, like I've asked the other tenants that live there, within a half-mile radius of the bar, north, south, east, and west? Have you done do you have a report for criminal activity in that area for that 1 year or beyond or past?
I believe you're asking for an analytic report of crime stats in that area?
Yes.
No, I am not.
Okay. The reason I asked that, I mean, I don't know if I should say that or not, but I asked that because you mentioned in your statement that this bar is not for the new development there. It's not part of that, or whatever it is that you both mentioned. Anyway, so let's go on to the next question. What warnings was it that I ignored? You mentioned that there was warnings that I ignored. Can you tell me what warnings I ignored?
So during the event, on the event information sheets, the officers made contact, and some of these they noted that they had made contact with you, and then as well as other staff in regards to the noise disturbances. And basically they note that it's been turned down, or they're going to turn it down, that sort of thing. These were repeated over the course of that year.
Okay. So it's not that I ignored them, but so when you say that I ignored them, so when a police officer walks in the bar at 10:30 and says to me, "Can you please turn down the noise? We got a complaint." Do you think, I'm asking you a question, do you think I ignored him? That he had to come back to the bar again that night? Do you have any documentation saying that they had to come back to the bar twice? Because if I ignored them, if I ignored the warnings, then I would assume that they would come back. Do you have any documentation that I ignored the warnings in that sense?
No, I believe that you probably, or your staff, turned the noise down during that specific, during the specific incident that an officer asked you to.
Okay. And as far as COVID complaint, and you mentioned that I've been in violation of COVID complaint, where is the complaint that I supposedly got? Because I haven't received any complaints for COVID, not one. So I want to know where the complaints are. Are they like, do I have to go pick them up? Do I have to download them? Who's complaining? Like, where are these complaints that I need to address?
The complaints were forwarded to Tri-County Health, and then
Okay.
we were just notified that there was a complaint in regards to the COVID restrictions.
Okay, so there's no citations, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Also, when your officers came into the bar and observed, I guess, me being behind the bar on 12/2020, and they observed when they came in, and then they said I was, I told them that the COVID times, because they kept moving the times. So when the officers came into the bar at that time, how does the officer write the report as to what he sees? Does he just, what he sees, he writes? Is that correct?
Yes, he completed a field interview card on that incident.
Okay, so that date and that time that I was in the bar, I was not, and I saw the report, and I'm looking at it right now. As long as anybody's ever known me, I don't wear white. So yes, he was right that I was wearing black, or I was wearing gray pants, but I was wearing a black top. I never wear white. So how did he write that up to be wrong? If I had a camera in my establishment, how would he come up with it? It's just a mistake?
That could be a mistake on his part.
Okay. All right. And then what are you talking about as far as trespassing? I'm so thrown by that. I don't understand what you and Mark are talking about trespassing. Please explain to me.
So during some of the calls, there was a mention of possibly trespassing a patron. However, there was nothing to indicate that the patron who was maybe causing the issue was trespassed.
I don't understand. Like a patron comes into my bar that they shouldn't be there and they're trespassing in my bar? Is that what you're?
No, it's someone who has been causing a problem in the bar that you may have called on. And then you just wanted the person basically to leave the bar, but you didn't want to prevent them from coming back in the bar.
Okay, and so where's the law or the rule that says I have to do an 86? I believe that's what you guys call it. You 86 somebody out of the bar. Is that correct?
No, we just call it removing somebody from an establishment.
So you're basically saying that what you're talking about trespassing, you got me like, I don't understand it, but so how did the officers know that this person is trespassing? And then what do I call again and say that they're trespassing again? Is that what this is about?
If it's somebody that you have told that they are not allowed in the establishment, then
Okay.
yes, you could call the police and state that they were trespassing.
Okay, and so how do you know that this happened, and what person? Do you have names of these trespassers?
No, I don't believe those are documented in any of the reports.
Okay, so you basically don't know. You're just basically saying that they were trespassing, but you have no names. So that doesn't, okay. So, let's see, okay, February, yeah. So my question to you is, you got a survey or you documented these bars that I'm looking at. You got my bar, you have Outpost, you have KC, you have Guadalajara. Now, my bar is in Westminster. That's Adams County, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. So why would you go to Outpost is Westminster? Why would you go to KC and Guadalajara to put this in your report when are they city of Westminster? Are they Adams County bars?
As I testified earlier, I compared those because they are licensees within the city of Westminster.
Okay, I did
And
not
they
know.
are within your neighborhood.
Okay, so they're not, okay. So they're part of Westminster licensed bars, correct?
They are within the city of Westminster.
Okay. So when I looked at the report and I saw Outpost on here, which is down the block, and patrons that frequent that bar, they walk around the corner from that bar to around past my bar. And pretty much everybody in the neighborhood knows who's who. I've been there 3.5 years. How is it that you did not, when you wrote this report up and you looked at Outposts, I don't see anything on the Outpost. Let me pull it up. When you pulled out, when I look at Outpost, I'm looking at 18 calls at Outpost, if I read it right, which I'm not exactly sure if I'm reading it correctly or not, because you got some lines either underneath them or in between them, and I'm not quite sure. So reading this report on the bar, there's 18 calls at Outpost, and you said that I had 26, I believe. Is that what you said?
Correct.
Okay. So out of those 26 calls, 12 of them, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 were noise. Okay. And the rest, not quite sure. I know there was some from me that it says, I think you typed on or wrote on their business calls, meaning that I called, which I did, which is by law, that's what I'm supposed to do. When a disturbance or something happens in my bar, I have to call. That's per the liquor board. So I follow the rules as best I can. So with Outpost, with that many calls, and my bar with that many calls, how is it that my bar is not, according to you and Mark, my bar is not fit for the neighborhood? Why is that?
So as I explained, when I run the report,
Mm-hmm.
there is a high number that comes up with that, and there's various reasons for that.
Mhm.
And then I have to go through each one of those calls for service to
Mhm.
determine if it is directly related to the establishment.
Okay, when you say directly related to the establishment, there's phone calls I've made to the police department because of the issues going on behind the bar, which is not my bar. I mean, it's not my parking lot. No parking lot is my parking lot. So when you're saying that it's related to the bar, like an Uber driver getting robbed over across the street at another bar, but they come to my bar for help, am I just gonna, do I just keep the door closed and that's your problem? No. So my question to you is, all these calls that you documented is you have to establish what is what. So is it good that I call on something like a robbery that happened across the other bar, that they came to my establishment, or closed the door and just let it be? That's not my problem. Is that something that I'm supposed to do or not do? To call or not call? So I don't have 26 calls. Or if somebody's getting hurt behind the bar, which has nothing to do with my bar, do I call or do I not call? Because
Miss Vernon.
it'll harm
Miss
me.
Vernon, I'm sorry.
Yes.
Vernon, this is Keith Martin again.
Okay.
Again,
Well-
I'm special counsel of the board. I'm not advocating for either side. I'm just noticing again your tendency to mix testifying at length with a question and then multiple questions mixed in with that testimony. Please just try to ask questions rather than testify and then ask a question. And also, I think
Okay.
it's helpful for the record if you let the city's witness hear your question and then have an opportunity to respond, and then you ask a question after that answer is given.
Okay, I'm done with my questioning.
With the board permission, I have a few more questions for Detective Gordner. And of course, the board could have questions as well.
All right,
Yes,
John, do you have a question?
John Romelfeger. My question is this. We referenced open carry in Westminster, and there was some issues with the security with handguns and rifles. Will you just refresh my memory with the open carry, and is that within the law or outside of the law?
That is within the law in the city of Westminster. We follow state law in regards to open carry.
Thank you very much.
At this time, you can go ahead and continue your question to Detective Gordon here.
Thank you. I wanted to ask about the parking lot. We talked about a couple of things that are happening in her parking lot, and it seems as though she believes that it may not be her responsibility. What is your perspective of the parking lot and its relationship with Sports Watch Bar and Grill?
So as per ordinance, the adjacent parking areas are part of the responsibility of a liquor license establishment.
Is there another parking area? Are we talking about something that is physically separated from her bar, or is this a parking area that is adjacent to and would normally be used by someone who wanted to patronize it?
It is immediately adjacent to, and she would have customers park there that would patronize her establishment.
And there was some concern that she raised about, maybe these people are kind of just ending up in her parking lot, but the event itself occurred somewhere else. Is that the impression you get from going through the events that you've identified?
So the ones that I identified are ones that are directly related to her establishment. I eliminated ones where there was question about whether or not it was directly related to her establishment, and to give her benefit of the doubt.
Is that ultimately your guiding principle in gathering this, to try to give Ms. Vernon the benefit of the doubt?
That is how I have done that the entire time I've done liquor enforcement, is to give the establishment benefit of the doubt.
Okay. I want to ask you just about a couple specific incidents. Can I ask you about what appears to be an incident on July 9th, 2020? Is this two separate incidents? Because I'm seeing two separate forms.
So this, the event, two separate event numbers, which would indicate two separate incidents.
Okay, and I'm going to ask if you would, just to kind of review the remarks of those pertaining to those two separate incidents on the same day. Okay, and then if you'd look at the next one. We had earlier asked you about, situations where, in your experience, it'd be typical for a bar to issue a trespass notice, given, kind of disturbances associated with individuals. And looking at this kind of two incidents on the same day, is this the kind of incident where it would have been typical for a bar owner, in your experience, to exclude an individual?
Yes.
Okay. What is it that you're seeing, happening here for the board, since they may not have found these pages yet?
So under event information P 2020-067022, there were 3 males that had been kicked out of the bar. The information was that they were outside the bar, and that the RP, which stands for reporting person, is saying that the same subjects had a gun on them on Sunday. However, they had not seen a gun on them during this incident.
Okay. And the reporting party there, does that appear to be someone from the bar?
Yes, it does.
Okay, and so did they end up trespassing someone who they believed had previously been in their bar with a gun and was today causing a disturbance?
No, in fact, it says that the officer notes that negative crime and they don't want subjects trespassed at this time.
So they're actually explicit after what would appear to be an officer request to issue a trespass notice.
Correct.
Okay. Does reading something like that cause you some concern about whether, they're oriented towards the well-being of this neighborhood?
It does cause concern, yes.
Okay, and that one, the first incident you were talking about, that was earlier in the same evening? When you were looking at just
Yes.
the incident earlier on the 20th.
Correct.
What happened later on the 20th?
So, under event P 2020-067026, the officers were sent because the same people that were there earlier in the evening, the RP, reporting person, now wants them formally trespassed. They're still standing in front of the bar, but they had never left.
So would that mean the police then have to go back out there?
Yes.
Okay. And is that somewhat of a drain on police resources to have to return to attend to something that appeared to have been a known problem earlier in the evening?
Yes.
Okay. And is approaching a problem like that responsibly something that you encounter regularly when you're dealing with license holders?
No, that's a little unusual based on the situation.
Okay, what they did at Sports Watch.
Yes.
Okay, so you, thank you. Did you ever have to call Ms. Vernon to work on any of these issues?
I did attempt to call her twice.
Did she ever call you back?
No.
And then my last kind of question here is, in Exhibit 2, there are 3 police reports that detail investigations. Were you able to resolve, and not you personally, but the Westminster Police Department as an entity, able to resolve any of those particular criminal investigations that occurred in her bar in 2020?
I believe all 3 had some sort of a conclusion to the case.
Okay. And then if I'm just going to ask you if you take a quick look then. I'll hand it to you. If you take a look at whether any of those led to a successful investigation.
So under case number 2020-08089, which was a shooting call, the detective noted that he was not getting cooperation from the victim, and therefore the case was closed due to the victim failing to cooperate.
Before you pass that, could you do you remember gathering this report?
I do.
And into the general contours of that investigation? Did the bar assist? Did the bar provide any leads to the Westminster Police in terms of people who might be able to answer the question of what happened when this person was shot?
No.
Okay. I'm going to ask you to go to the next. Just turn to the next page. And if you'd start by reading the case number, I think that was handy.
So the case number for this was 2020-1054. That was an unlawful sexual contact case.
Okay. I'm going to ask you to whether you were able to reach any kind of positive investigative review.
So the detective in that case, the fact that he was unable to contact the victim in this case.
Otherwise, did they secure, helpful information from individuals in the bar?
No, they did not.
Okay. And I'm going to ask you to go to the police report. I believe there's a third case.
So the third case is case number 2020-00590. That involves a criminal mischief and illegal discharge of a firearm. That case was inactivated due to the information at the time did not identify a suspect.
Situation where, in reading through that, you get the impression that the police were able to get a lot of help from the folks at Sports Watch Park Room.
The help that they received from the bar at that time was with video surveillance.
Mm-hmm.
However, the video surveillance was not helpful because it was not pointing really in any direction that would have helped the investigation.
Is video surveillance something that is helpful just in general in terms of your experience in running a bar, particularly one where there's concern about, incidents?
Yes.
Okay. Had there been enough, and just your own interactions with Ms. Fernan and understanding here, to where it would have been pretty common out of nowhere to know that there are incidents in their bar?
Yes.
Okay. And so when you look at a report like that, is it somewhat of a frustration to you that despite there being an incident involving potentially a firearm,
there's nothing that would be helpful to the police in investigating that.
But that'd be correct.
Does that place that neighborhood at risk?
Yes.
Thank you. I appreciate the board's indulgence. I have no further questions.
I have some questions. This is Susan. May I address?
Go ahead with your question, Susan.
Okay, so the parking lot, okay, I'm gonna ask the question like I'm supposed to. Whoops. So, did you know that Lomart has a liquor license?
I'm aware of that.
Okay. Do you know that that is their parking lot, the whole parking lot?
Walmart does not own the parking lot.
Yes, Lomart, the three, well, I don't know if I'm supposed to elaborate on it, but yes, they own the parking lot. And anyway, so, and I know this because I pay taxes. So also, what number did you call me on to try to reach me?
It was the number that we have listed on your license, which is an out-of-state number.
Okay.
It starts with 408, but I don't remember exactly.
No, that's not it.
It is an out-of-state number, though. It's an out-of-area code number.
It's a 909, yes. When you tried to reach me, did you leave a voicemail, a email, a text message?
I left you 2 voicemails.
Okay. When did you leave me those voicemails?
The first one was on November 2nd of 2020. And the second one was on December 21st of 2020.
December 21st of 2020. And what were the voicemails concerning?
I just identified myself and asked you to call me back in regards to Sports Watch Bar.
So you didn't say anything, no incident or anything like that?
I just asked you to call me back reference Sports Watch Bar.
Is that the norm? Is that normal when you call somebody that you don't leave a longer message as to why you're calling?
Depends on circumstances.
Okay. So with circumstances being that if those were urgent, you still don't leave a message as far as urgency?
I left you a message and asked you to call me back in
Okay.
regards to your establishment.
Okay. Where did the incident happen as far as the sexual assault? Where was that at?
I'll need a minute to read the.
That's fine.
So that happened in a vehicle.
Okay. Where at in the parking lot?
Just says in the parking lot.
Okay. So not any particular north, south, east, west, front, back, just in the parking lot?
The officer isn't specific about exactly where in the parking lot.
Okay. And you understand there's like 6 businesses in that parking lot?
I'm aware.
Okay. Also, with the other incident you're talking about with, I guess, where I think you're talking about where the window got shot or something, and you said that we weren't cooperative or we weren't, or I wasn't, maybe, I'm not sure. What was that incident? Can you tell me that again? Mark just brought it up.
I'm sorry?
Mark just brought it up, and I guess y'all said I wasn't cooperative, or we were not cooperative.
So what it is that the cameras that you have with your business didn't provide any investigative leads that would have helped law enforcement maybe identify who shot your window.
Is there a statute or a law or in maybe the laws of the liquor board that states that our cameras have to reach so far, or where they have to reach, or what direction or anything like that? Is there anything in there that maybe I missed that I'm supposed to be doing?
No, there's no law or requirement for video surveillance.
Okay. All right. Let me see what other questions I have. I think that's it. I may have missed some, but I think that's it. Thank you.
Do you have any other questions for Detective Mike?
Thank you. No, not, I was gonna just see if the board had any further
Mark.
questions.
My apologies. Yeah. At this time, does the board have any questions for the detective? David, you're on mute. We still can't hear you, David. No. I just hear your mouth moving. I mean, I see your mouth moving. No.
So I don't have any questions, but if everybody's done with, is everybody done with questions for Detective Gordonier?
I had one question regarding the report. So in the breakdown, it says that there was 2 shootings, but in the there's 2 different breakdowns. One of all the service calls, and the one of just what type of calls they were. One of them shows there's 2 shootings, and the other one only shows there's only 1 shooting. Do you see that?
So the shooting, I'll say this, the second shooting that was under case number 2020-08089 was the report that the police report that I alluded to, or that I spoke about. The first one, gotta look at the call note number.
I just want to make sure that's correct for the record.
So it is correct.
Does anyone else on the board have questions for Detective Gordonier at this time? Perfect. At this time, we'll open up this part of the hearing for the board to ask questions to the applicant.
Before, Mr. Parker, before we do that, Board Member Hatfield had a question probably about an hour ago that I missed on the thing, and so I think she would like to ask that question.
Yeah, go ahead, Ms. Hatfield. Caroline, if you're speaking, we can't hear you.
It kind of looks like that maybe she might be having some issues.
If they do have a issue, can they share their questions in the chat, and then I can read it out loud for them?
Is that permissible, Mr. Martin?
If she's able to share it, I think that'd be fine.
Perfect. Caroline and David, if you could both enter your questions into the chat, we'll be more than happy to read it on your behalf.
And then one last thing I wanted to direct the board to. We do have a email box for special permit and license board comments, and I neglected to check that today. And there were 4 emails in there, and they were all made previous to today. And they are in chronological order, and I have emailed those to everybody, including the licensee, Susan. And I just wanted to, so the people listening know that the board has or is now receiving those emails that you submitted over the weekend and up until yesterday.
Mary Joy, on those emails that you sent, on that email you sent, I did not receive anything besides your message. There was no emails.
Oh, really?
Correct.
Okay, let me.
And it looks like John's agreeing with me.
Everybody's agreeing that way? Okay, my apologies. Let me send it again.
Yeah, and if I might chime in on that. So what I might recommend to the board is that they allow the licensee to make an opening statement, to then, present testimony, and then go through a question and answer session with the board. And then after this particular testimonial hearing is concluded, the board enter those emails that were submitted as part of the public record into the record for the hearing. And it sounds like the city provides for a comment period. So as long as those emails were received during that applicable period, then I think at the very end, you could probably enter those in. Or if you want to do it now, in case the licensee does want to address those.
Yes, I would like to address them.
1 second, Mary Joy. As we've been on this call for 3 hours now, is there a way we can take a 5-minute bathroom break and then rejoin in 5 minutes?
Absolutely. We can adjourn right now for a bio break, and I show that it's 9:50 p.m. So we'll restart the meeting beginning at 9:55.
Perfect. And may I ask everyone, please do not turn off the GoToMeeting or anything, so that way we don't have any technical difficulties as we return. Thank you. We'll see you again in 5 minutes.
Carol, will you hold just a minute? I'm just trying to shut off the recording and I can't find the button.
Mary Joy, you might want to mute yourself.
See here. Okay, go ahead.
Charlene's back, even though you can't see me. Hear me, Parker? Great.
I hear you, Charlene.
Oh, okay. Thanks, John.
All right, perfect. And so it's now 9:57. We'll reconvene the meeting. Mary Joy, can you do roll call again for the board? Make sure everyone's here.
Yes. Yes, I can. Can you? Yes. Amin. Okay. Brown.
Here.
Hatfield. I just got off the phone with Carol, and she was having pretty bad difficulties, but she did want to send an email with her question, and I told her we'd have to check with Mr. Martin to see if that would be permissible, because she can't seem to figure out how to get into the chat either. And is that you, Tracy, trying to hook up?
I'm on.
I'm sorry, Tracy. Carol, is that you trying to hook in? Okay, so Mo?
Here.
Rommelfinger?
Present.
Shu?
Here.
And Velasquez?
Here.
Okay, so we have a quorum still online. it's still just a matter if we can, if Tracy, we're going to be able to hear her question.
So I'll take a couple things in step. It looks like Chair Amin is, I can see a screen. You may want to ask if he's present.
Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you. David Amin, will you just let us know that you are still present?
All right, let's try this. Here, can you hear me?
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
And as to the second part, is it Ms. Hatfield, is Board Member Hatfield's questions? I think it depends on who her questions are directed to, if that individual even has the ability to answer them at this point.
She had a question for Detective Gordonier.
Okay. Then I think it's fine.
So is it permissible, though, that she can send an email directly to Vice Chair Parker and he could ask the question?
Yes. As long
Okay.
as the licensee has the ability to hear the question, hear the response, and then potentially, rebut it with a follow-up question.
I'm just trying to send out those emails that I mentioned earlier that it sounds like I neglected to. So let me just do that really quick.
And then finally, Mary Joy, you just may want to confirm that Susan is still on.
Okay,
I'm here.
thank you.
Just let me know when you're ready to continue, Mary Joy.
Okay, I'm ready now. Hopefully those emails that I spoke about earlier, you should be popping into your email at any minute.
Perfect.
Okay. Oh, wait.
received-
Wait. Let me start the recording. Okay, go ahead.
Perfect. I did receive the emails, just so you know. But
Okay.
at this time, we'll open up the portion of the hearing for the board to ask questions to the applicant. Does the board have any questions for the applicant at this time?
This is John Velasquez. I have a couple questions for the applicant. Can you hear me okay?
Keith, my apologies. My apologies. Should I be letting the applicant state her case first?
Yeah, I think just as
My
the city
apologies.
prosecutor, it's fine. I think she can, Ms. Fernan should be given an opportunity to kind of give her quote opening statement. Then maybe any kind of testimony within a reasonable time period. And then if the board members have questions to ask of the licensee, they may do so. And then we'll take it from there.
Perfect, John. I'll get back to you as soon as Susan's done. Susan, you can go ahead at this time.
Okay. So, so is this something I could state, or am I supposed to be asking questions? I'm not sure.
No, at this time, you can state your case. You could state, tell us
essentially
bars about.
Okay. So
I'm
when
sorry,
I,
Vice Chair.
when I opened this in September of 2017, and started running.
Susan, it seems like we have lost you. Susan, are you there? Mary Joy, is there a way to reach out to Susan and let her know that we have lost her?
Yep.
Thank you.
Susan, if you can hear me, it maybe looks like that you're self-muted again. She hasn't responded to my text. Okay, it looks like we're going to have to send her another invite.
While we're addressing this, and I'll bring this up again once Ms. Fernan is on the line, I just wanted to point out that there's a survey that was done that I wanted to introduce. So if we should do that before she begins speaking, I just haven't had an opportunity to kind of interject and say that would have been the end of my presentation. So I just wanted to alert everyone to that, and I'll do it again once she's online.
Yeah, I think if you do get her back online, then certainly introduce the additional evidence that you had. And then I think Mary Joy just sent the email with Board Member Hatfield's questions that would be directed to Mr. or Detective Gardner. So maybe address those first, then the prosecution's additional evidence, and then we can proceed with the licensee, but that's assuming we can get her on.
Perfect. As soon as we get her on, I will ask Caroline's question. Then I will.
Can you hear me?
Yes, Susan, is that you?
Yeah, it's me.
Okay, go ahead.
All right, as we're thanking Susan for being back on, I did receive Caroline's question in the meantime for Detective Gordon here. So we're gonna back up just a little bit and start there. In your report it was from December 31st, 2019 to December 31st, 2020. He recorded at least 26 incidents during that time. In the memo, the Westminster Police Department sent it appears that there were 2 shootings on or near the premises in 2020. I understand that there was an additional shooting more recently, perhaps March of 2021. This would be 3 incidents of shooting on or related to the establishment within 18 months. Is that correct? I'm sorry, I had a hard time hearing you. Was that correct?
That is correct.
Okay, so there were 3 shootings in the past 15 months. Thank you. At this time, Susan, there was a survey done. Did you have a chance to review that survey?
No.
Did you receive the survey? You just didn't have time to review it, or you didn't receive it at all?
When was the survey sent? And how was it sent?
Susan, that was the document that I sent you on, I emailed it to you on, I emailed it to you on March 25th, and you actually sent me back a question on that email.
Okay. What was the survey? I mean, I don't understand.
It was at the hearing, when on the February 2nd hearing, when the request to hold a renewal hearing was made to the board. The board voted to have a new needs and desires survey completed. With any new liquor license, a needs and desires survey is required as part of state liquor code. And since there had not been a survey done since the license you currently hold and has been transferred probably 5 times from 2011, that survey was that old. So they wanted to have the neighborhood in 2021 resurveyed. And that's the document that I sent you, the results of that survey.
No, my husband passed away on the 22nd. So if you sent me that survey by the 25th, I'm still in shock and in mourning. So no, I have not even viewed it.
All right. Well, we definitely apologize to hear about your husband.
Thank you.
At this time, Mark, you had some wanted to talk about the survey?
Yes, and what I would ask, because Detective Gordon is far more familiar with how these, I'm just going to ask him. And when you received this survey, have you had a chance to look that over?
Yes.
And there's 78% who are in favor of a license and 22 who are not in favor of a license. Does that ratio stand out to you in any way?
It does a bit compared to other surveys that have been brought before this board for this type of liquor license. The numbers are typically higher that are in favor than what this survey shows.
And where are the numbers typically when a entertainment venue like a bar is approved? What kind of in favor percentage do you typically see?
My recollection is at least 90% in favor.
Okay, and so when you look at this, does it qualify your opinions that you've otherwise given, or confirm them to some degree?
Yes.
Which does it make you think? Does it make you think more strongly that there should be something done, or
no? It definitely says that something should be done in regards to this current liquor license.
Okay, so when you see 78% in this, that suggests a decline in desire.
Correct.
thank you. That's what I wanted to present. And of course, Mrs. Vernon.
Thank you, Mark. Does the board have any questions regarding the survey at this time? Seeing that there are no questions about the survey, can we go ahead and put the survey into the record?
Well, I would just note that Ms. Vernon has the ability to ask questions of Detective Gordonier with regards to the survey.
I haven't even looked at it. I don't have any questions because I'm just blindsided. I don't have any because I can't comment on something or ask questions I haven't seen. So I don't.
All right,
Yeah,
seeing that there are no questions, can we put that into the record, please? Susan, at this time, you can go ahead and tell us a little bit about the establishment and tell us what's going on.
Well, I started the bar in 2017 of September, not knowing what I was doing. Learned a lot from there. All the rules, the regulations, followed them the best of my ability. Never had incidents until all these recordings or documents that Mark had sent me. They were shocking to me because I didn't know about him. So that was shocking. And then when the liquor license, when Mary Jo mentioned to me that my liquor license was on hold, and then Mark mentioned to me that my business license on hold. So what good is a bar without either one? So I don't understand. As far as the incidents that happened, the parking lot, I do not own the parking lot. I have nothing to do with the parking lot. There's incidents that happen not even behind my bar, but behind Lomart that comes out of those apartments. And that's why I'm asking the question, have you guys literally went and looked at the criminal activity that has come out of those apartments? I don't even know if you've even driven past there, but that gate behind the bar all the way down to the end is literally tore off. You've got homeless problem back there. You've got a drug problem back there. You've got people living in their cars, the homeless living in their cars. And I know that for a fact. So you've got all those things combination in that parking lot, but this is all angled towards my bar and not one single incident other than the person that shot himself in the foot, I believe, in the parking lot. I mean, in the patio on a Sunday, like, I don't know, maybe 6, 7 o'clock in the afternoon. I wasn't even out there. I was in the front closing up. And all of a sudden I heard a pop. And that was a shock to me. It's like, what? So all of these things that people are bringing up, the community is bringing up, has just shocked me because, like I said, I've had the bar. I was planning on getting out of the bar September of 2021. My lease is up. I had signed a 4-year lease and I'm committed to a 4-year lease. I could have walked out. I could have lost all my investment money. I don't own the actual building. I own the business. So I've struggled and struggled for years and years. And I've done everything I possibly could. I've gotten security. I've changed my security. I put signs on the door that I don't want no gangs, no gang attire. I've done almost everything to make it a decent bar, but it just seems like the people across the street that I feel like are targeting me just by these phone calls that, 6 and 4 anonymous, and they rent the place. And I'm myself personally, I am not going to buy, I will do my research. I will not buy a resident near a bar, around a bar, near a strip club. That is just something I would not do. But it's almost like they're trying to change the neighborhood to what it was, which I would love to have it changed. But it's reality. But it's almost like the whole parking lot, from when I'm asking these questions, where did it happen? What happened? So it's almost like it's like on my shoulders, but yet you've got five or six businesses in that strip mall, and you've got that parking lot where it hosts the bad incidents there. There was an incident there that happened behind that strip mall, right in the back parking lot. And Troy should know this, is that those two young kids came from that apartment building. They shot, the drug deal went bad back there. They shot the guy in the neck, I believe. And that guy drove his car up to Lowell and passed. Now, that was Thanksgiving Eve on a Wednesday at 7:00 in the afternoon, at evening time. I stayed with the police all the way till 1:30 in the morning. I gave them my recordings. We put the thumb drive in there. All the detectives, everybody was in my building, in my office. So for them to sit there and say that I don't help with like, that I don't help out, that's my responsibility. I have cameras there. There's more than a couple of times that I've given them my cameras. Matter of fact, my bar don't have cameras in there right now because the police department has them. When are they going to return them back? We don't know that. So right now, my establishment has no surveillance since March 6th. So I'm the bad guy in this whole sense, because it seems like everybody's like, they're just coming at me every which way, when Outposts back in I don't know, a couple of years ago had an incident where it was attempted murder in the bar. That person went to prison for it, but Outpost got a slap on the wrist for 5 days. They got to close down 5 days. But yet, if you looked at that record of that year, how many incidents were over at Outpost? I would sit at my bar and I have windows on both sides. And every time police or ambulance came by, they were at Outpost. They were at Outpost. So now, I guess, since I've gotten busier, now it's my bar. So, I mean, all I can do is defend my bar, the inside of the bar. I can't control what happens outside the bar because there's 5 or 6 businesses there. And Jimmy at Lomart, that owns Lomart, has all these homeless people sleeping in the back in their cars. And it's been like that since I've been there, 3.5 years. You can go at any given time. And I even threatened him and I said, Jimmy, I'm going to call when I get out of the bar at 2 at night. I'm going to call. I don't care if they're sleeping in their cars. I'll have them towed away. I never did it because I want to get along with my neighbors. I've done everything I possibly could. We with the noise, I didn't know the base was the way it was. So when the police would come in, they tell me, hey, we got a call. And I said, okay, I'll close the patio door. So I closed the patio door. We lowered down the music. So I've done, I mean, other than putting foam with these boards in the window and the inside, I don't know what else that I could possibly do other than I have good security. I have, I try to maintain the noise since we've been getting these noise complaints. So, I mean, like I said, that's why I asked the question, where did it happen in the parking lot? Why is it that it's targeted at me? Couldn't it be from Lomart? They sell alcohol. What about the pizza place? What about the tattoo parlor that's next door? What about the bar that's across the street at La Sierra? They had an Uber driver robbed in February. Well, that Uber driver came to our establishment. We called the police. So there's probably one of those phone calls on here because we called the police. But that's what I'm supposed to do as a licensed owner. So I have nothing else to say. I asked all the questions that I could possibly ask about the bar. Is that I've followed protocol as best I could, even with COVID. I'm the only bar, if you've ever been to my bar, nobody told me to do this. If you go in my bar, I put up piping all along the bar and put plastic. I put plastic so that when you're at that bar and I'm on the opposite side of the bar, all I'm going to do is slide you underneath the alcohol that you ordered. We're not going to meet. We can see eye to eye, but there's plastic between us. Nobody asked me to do that. I took that upon myself to do that. I took it upon myself to follow the CDC guidelines. I have a temperature check that I would check their temperatures when they walked in the door. Make sure there's a sanitizing station, 2 sanitizing stations in my bar. I've placed the tables 6 feet apart.
Oh, really?
So if they were saying that I'm violating COVID, where's my citations? You know, they're claiming all these things, but where's my citations for all of this that you're accusing me of? I don't have them because there is none. So that's my defense as far as my bar. I'm running it the best way I can. I'm a single business owner and that's all I could possibly do. So.
Don't read it.
Thank you, Susan. At this time, we'll open up the portion of the hearing where the board can ask questions to the applicant.
Yes.
Keith,
This
did
is
you have
John
something to say?
Velasquez.
Yeah, I
Can
think
you hear
maybe, maybe give the city prosecutor an opportunity to, cross if he wants to. It's his choice. And then maybe the board proceeds with asking Susan if she has any other additional evidence, like documents or witnesses that she wants to present. I'm assuming no. And then you can ask her questions. That's how I would go.
Perfect. Mark, did you have anything else you wanted to add?
I have a couple brief questions. Ms. Vernon, I noticed that you said that you wouldn't buy a home here. Is that your opinion that, that to some degree that the people who bought homes in the neighborhood immediately around you and knew that there was a bar there and should expect that there will be noise coming from that bar?
Any establishment that hosts entertaining, that hosts a liquor license, a strip club, bar, jazz bar, whatever you want to call it, it would be, for me, this is my opinion. When I do research and buy a home, I'm going to make sure and not buy it in an establishment where there's busy traffic, streets that are busy, near schools. I don't want to be near schools. I don't want to be near bars. I don't want to be near restaurants. I don't want to be near, I just want to be on a quiet street. That's my personal opinion. So this bar was there well before those houses and those homes were there. This bar has been there for, a long time if you've done your history. There's an empty parking lot right across the street. Now, when they were saying that their homes are across the street, they're not directly across the street. They're catty corner. So there's a big parking lot, a field there. So that's my personal opinion.
You had also made a comment that, and I think you were referring to individual evenings, but you said, I don't know, the base was the way it was. What else could I do? Can you describe what you mean by didn't really know that this was causing a concern?
When a police officer comes into the bar and says, can you please turn your noise down? Okay, noise. He didn't say bass. He didn't say, when he did, one of the officers finally did come in and told me, and this was like, I want to say November, can you turn your bass down? Because I told him we turn the noise down. I even have somebody going out in the front door and checking for noise like every 15 minutes, just so it's not, even the security guards that I have there, they would go out and check for noise just to make sure they wouldn't hear it. But when the officer came in and literally told me, it's your bass, turn your bass down, that's when I did it. So all those complaints before were noise, music, noise. They never said your bass. I'm not into music. I'm not into music. I like Frank Sinatra, okay? So running an establishment and having this kind of music is it's my money maker. I have to pay my bills. I have to do what I have to do. So, yeah.
And so it'd be fair from what you said, is you feel that the music you have played and are playing is what you need to do to make money at Sports Watch Bar and Grill. Is that fair?
Okay. No, it's not fair, because you're just pointing out, what music are you asking me about?
Well, that was your statement. You said, I did what I had to do.
Right. I played country.
About the music you needed to play. And I was saying, are you telling the board that you need to play that music at that volume to be profitable?
I need to play country music on country night. I need to play R&B. I need to play the music that they have the shows for, which is what? Hip hop. So you can, if that's what you want me to, yes, then country, Spanish music. I've had Spanish nights. So it's a variety. It just depends on the theme and what you're doing as a bar owner.
But the police have spoken to you on 15 individual nights, or someone in your establishment, about the volume. I'm trying to understand, when you said this is what I have to do, if what you mean is I have to have it at that volume to operate.
No, you're taking words out of my mouth, and no, that is not correct.
No,
It means it means that I have to play the theme music that I have to play. Now the volume, when they come in and address the volume, yes, we turn the volume down. Like I said, I did not know about the bass until like November, when a police officer said, it's your bass. Because I told him, officer, we turned it down.
How many different warnings had you gotten before someone told you that the bass was the particularized problems?
I'm not sure, to be honest with you. Probably could look at the Troy's records and probably figure that out.
But more than one?
I don't know.
Were you warned about volume at any time prior to someone telling you about bass?
Yes.
And do you think that was more than once?
Yes, it was more than once.
Okay. And you said that you had staff going outside to kind of see if they could hear it. Was this the same staff, regular, that you relied on to go out every 15 minutes and see if they could hear the sound?
It's a multitude of staff. It was my security. It was my bartenders. It was me. It was the DJ. It was a multiple of people that I had check.
Okay. You asked several witnesses if they had purchased and used a decibel meter to test your volume. Did you ever purchase a decibel meter so that you could consistently monitor the actual volume coming from your establishment?
We just, the security just had purchased that probably about a month ago, I want to say.
So prior to that, you were just kind of relying on the staff to tell you whether or not it was too loud.
I was there most of the time, Mark. So
Okay.
I went out there. My bartenders basically bartend, and I'm the one that basically oversees and walks outside personally myself, because I did get complaints. Every time a police officer would come in, and I'd address it. So yeah, I'm the one that, I own the establishment. I'm the one that went out there most of the time. If I was super busy, I would send somebody out there, but my security basically started taking it upon themselves, so I wouldn't have to come from around the bar and go around to do it.
So as much as possible, you wanted to be personally responsible for the volume coming out of your establishment.
Yes.
Thank you. I have no further questions.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Susan, do you have any witnesses that you would like to testify on your behalf? Or
I
any
have
other comments?
I have no one on the phone right now. No.
Thank you. At this
Mhm.
time, we'll open it up for the board for questions. John Velasquez, you can go ahead.
Thank you very much. Ms. Fernan, I have to apologize. I know this is very difficult for you. It sounds like it's very stressful for you, so I apologize for that. But I do have some questions for you. Can you explain to me who your customers are? Are they customers that come from a distance to your establishment? Are they your neighbors? Are they your friends? Who are your customers?
They come from everywhere. I have older customers that have been with me since 2017. I have new customers. I have, depends on a show. If we have a show, it's their customers that come. It's a variety. It's a variety of people.
Are they your neighbors?
I don't know that. I really don't know that if they're my neighbors or not. Some of them are that live up where the school is, because I know they're my older clientele, or they live around the neighborhood. But they're just very few and far in between. It's not like they're groups of 20 and 50 of them.
Let me ask you this question then. Describe to me the atmosphere of your bar when you have music going. Is it rowdy? Is it pretty
No.
subdued?
I mean, it just depends on, I mean, it's a bar. I mean, when you have music in there, people are talking and drinking, and they have birthday parties. I have baby showers. I have benefits for people that, lost their loved ones. It just depends. It's a bar. So when the music, they want different kind of music. Sometimes it's Spanish music. Sometimes they want country. Sometimes they want hip hop. I don't do a whole lot of the rap because I don't care for it.
Do your customers have a tendency to overdrink?
No, I make sure and shut that down right away, because I'm liable for that. And I've never had a citation. I've never had anybody when I ran the bar pretty much by myself for almost 3 years by myself, because the bar was not established. I was barely making rent. I never made any money for myself. So I was there all the time. So
when was the last time you had to stop serving a customer? Because they were intoxicated.
I want to say there was an incident that was on this report that I do remember, and I had to stop serving him because I already knew. So I had security get him out, and then he caused a huge ruckus outside where he had to actually be ambulanced out of there, out in the middle of the street, because he didn't want to leave the establishment. We got him out, and the police had to intervene. And that's the last time. I can't remember if that was in.
What's your procedure? What's your procedure when you stop serving an intoxicated individual? You talk a lot about your security.
Yeah.
Does your security just push them outside and tell them to go home?
No, basically what I do is I come from around the bar. I tell them personally myself, and I tell the bartenders if they're with me, or friends, if their friends are working with me, I tell them, can you please, I can't serve you anymore. And they, want to resist me, and I tell them I'm not going to serve you anymore. And so they kind of resist me. And if they don't leave the establishment, then I go around and I ask my security if they can, come up and ask them to leave. So most of the time they pretty much leave on their own. Yeah, they maybe say this or that, but the security knows not to hurt anybody, so they take them out quiet.
Do you try to help them? Do you try to get them a taxi? Do you try to
I've done
feed them
that.
something? Do you try to give them some coffee?
I've done all of them. I paid for Uber or Lyft by myself out of my pocket. I actually have the kitchen. There's times I've went in there and just made a grilled cheese sandwich as fast as I could. I usually have popcorn or have chips or peanuts to absorb the alcohol. I give them water. I even give them Red Bull, or a soda, whatever it takes for them to calm down so they, don't get irate that I can't serve them anymore. Because you're dealing with somebody who has alcohol in their system and I don't. So that's what I do. And I've never had.
Or is there ever a time when you're really afraid that your bar is out of control? People are out of control?
Never. I've never had that in my bar. Like I said, all these incidents are outside. That's why I'm talking about parking lots. There's never been, if there's an argument inside the bar, we pretty much get rid of that argument. And what I try to do is I try to leave the person, one group or one person inside, and I let the other group go. So this way they're gone, and then I'll let the other person out. Because if not, you're going to have bad stuff going on.
I heard you talk a lot about not knowing a lot of these incidents that happened, that the police have reported, but you know a lot about your neighborhood bars. How is that?
Because the neighborhood customers come to my bar and they all talk about the other bars. So it's kind of like a gossip session there. One bar goes to the next and one talks about the other one. So that's how I know.
I'm a little confused because just a few minutes ago you said that you didn't know if people from the neighborhood came to the bar. Now you're saying that people from the neighborhood are coming to the bar.
A few.
What is it?
A few customers come to the bar, like from Outpost or from La Sierra. They're like the neighborhood. They live like across the street, like across Lowell, not where the housing or the new homes are. They live like across the street or up where the elementary school is, kind of ish. So there's a few, and they go around to all three bars. They go to my bar. They go to mainly Outpost or La Sierra, but there's only like a handful of them, and they're locals.
Would you say that you're a good neighbor? You talk about the other stores are around you and some of them that do sell alcohol. Would you say you're a good neighbor?
I'm a very good neighbor. I try to do free benefits for people that lost their loved ones. All they have to do is not even rent a bar, and they come and they do their benefit. So I don't charge them anything. All they have to do is clean up, come, put their food up, bring their food, because why am I going to let, have them use my kitchen? And it's money they make for their families. So I try to do all that.
Thank you very much.
Thank
you.
You're welcome. Are you there?
Yes.
I even reached out to the incident for March 6th that happened at the bar, even though it was in California. I reached out to both of the families on text message to ask them, to tell them how sorry I was, and that if they wanted to have a benefit, I would provide all the food and we would sell the plates of food for them. They'd come bring all their family and friends, and they would take the proceeds so they can have it for their families. And I reached out to them. I didn't hear back from them, but that's my part, that I feel that as a community and as, something that happened outside, that it was my responsibility to at least stretch my arm out to the families. So that's what I did. But that's all I can.
All right, Rumblefinger, go ahead.
Our condolences from the whole board, I'm sure, on your loss, Susan.
Thank
So
you.
sorry to hear about it. We want to talk about security a little bit. You had mentioned security and you changed the security. What is the security for?
So,
Go ahead.
being that there's me and girl bartenders or me and friends working, and I'm there by myself as a woman, and it's like I've tried, if there was an argument or something, I've gone up to the argument, and I'm a small person. I'm only like 4'11", 105, 10 pounds at that. And so I'm not afraid of anyone. Being in the bar industry when I first started, yes, I was afraid. I had no idea. All I've ever done, me and my husband, was go to happy hour with our friends here in California. We're not bar people. And so when I got into this establishment, I learned a lot, but I also had to learn not to be afraid. So there was people in there that I'd seen that had come from other bars that I had to literally say, you know what, you got to leave, in a nice way. And that's kind of what I've had to do. So is that your question? Did I answer it?
Sort of. We talked about open carry, and we talked about the city of Westminster laws that they adhere to, the city and the state. Is that, but it's a felon, a convicted felon cannot have a gun. And I'm just wondering, do you have any you people that your security, is there a statement that there have been that there are no felons at all?
No, my security that I have now that I've established, I brought them on board. I want to say about January, I brought them on board. They were highly recommended, and they've done such a great job, and they are licensed to carry. And they, when they were in the bar, when I first seen them, I was kind of shocked myself, but at the same time, I was like, it gave me a sense of peace, because when you mix alcohol with mental illness, which I've seen, it's not a good combination. And so you're trying to run a decent establishment with good people that want to come out and have a drink and socialize and not have to worry about anything happening. And that's the kind of establishment I wanted to create. So
you did answer my question when you said the folks that you have security are also licensed to carry. So that answered my question.
Oh, okay. Yes.
Is this a private security firm, or do you employ these security officers?
I employ them.
Okay. What other questions we have from the board?
Question.
Go ahead, David.
The security guards. So you employ them. What certification do they have?
They're just certified security licensed to carry.
Through which entity?
What do you mean? What entity?
Like what certification do they have is what I'm asking you.
I don't have that right now with me, so I couldn't even tell you.
All right then. Let's talk about this sign. Has anybody talked about this notice to all patrons sign?
The what sign is it?
The exhibit, there is this sign that you have at your bar.
What does it say?
No notice to all patrons.
I can't. You're breaking up. You're echoing a lot.
What I'm trying to ask you is, you have a sign at your bar, notice to all patrons.
It says notice to all patrons.
Correct.
Where is this sign at and when do you have a copy of
It's
it?
in the exhibit. It's in the exhibit that the
I
city
don't,
provided.
I did not get the exhibit that Mark sent or whoever sent.
Okay, you have a sign that says notice to all patrons entering Sports Watch Bar and Grill requires compliance with the following rules. Do you have a sign like that?
Is that one that the city liquor board gives me? Or is it one that I created?
This is something that looks like you have created.
Oh, that I haven't been to the bar since my husband got ill since February 6th. I've been in California this whole time till he passed. So I could not even tell you what that sign is. And if Mark sent it, I don't have it.
Okay, so that's the sign right there. Do you see it?
I can't very well see it. Let me see. No, I can't. Let me see. Let me put on my glasses. Let me see if I can see it. Okay. Can you read it to me?
Yeah, so let's talk about the first line.
Okay.
It says, no gangs-related attire, no display colors in any manner.
Okay.
You have this problem?
Do I have that problem?
Yeah.
You're asking me? I don't think so.
Okay. Then you have,
I've had a sign up there for 3 years now, and it's faded, and it said no gang, no colors. It doesn't say gang, but it says no colors. So yeah, that's been up there.
Number one definitely says in two different spots, no gang related attire, no gang signs. So it does say gang.
Okay. Yeah, they must have put that sign up while I was gone.
so you're telling us you don't have this problem?
No, I don't have that problem.
Okay, all right. Number two says no gang members allowed inside.
Okay.
So you don't have this problem either?
No, and I'm trying not to have that problem.
Okay. Number three says no ID, no entry. So you have a problem with people bringing IDs, or you don't have a problem like that either?
We don't have that problem. You need your ID.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So then we go down to no drugs or weapons of any kind. You have a problem, you don't have a problem?
Yeah, you have to repeat that. I can't hear you.
No drugs or weapons of any kind. You have that problem, or you don't have that problem?
No, we don't have that problem.
Number seven says no violence, period. You have that problem, or you don't have that problem?
No, we don't have that problem.
Let me ask you this. I've never been to a place that puts up a sign when they don't have a problem. So what's up with this sign?
Because the outside, there's the parking lot is outside. We don't.
I'm asking you specifically about your store, your establishment, your property lines. People put up signs for a purpose.
Because
you don't put signs up if they're not relevant.
The reason that
So why
sign
do
is
you
up,
have this?
the reason that sign is up there, because there's another bar on the opposite side of town. It's called Our Place. And if you look at that bar and how many incidents, they try to come over to our bar, and I'm not having it. So therefore, I'm warning the public, whoever's going to come over, that's not going to happen at my bar. So that's why that sign is put up there.
All right.
So that's why that sign is up there. But I thought you just said you didn't know that sign was up there.
Well, you just told me that it's there. You guys said, David said that the sign is up there at my bar.
Right. But if the sign is up there, you already said that you didn't know about it.
I
didn't. A minute ago, you said, well, that's why I put it up there.
No, I didn't know it was up there till he said it was up there. But if you say it's up there, then it is up there. But the reason that we would put a sign up there with that language is for the simple fact that we don't want any of that at the bar, at the establishment.
Okay. John, if you give us 1 second, Tracy's up next.
Okay.
Go ahead, Tracy.
Susan,
Yes.
hello.
Hi.
We're talking about, we've gone through everything. We're here tonight for a reason, okay?
Mm-hmm.
So, and I want to ask you this, no disrespect, as a board member, as a citizen of the city of Westminster, as a taxpayer living in the city of Westminster, my community, I need to ask you, your goal, I mean, we're here for a reason, so there needs to be accountability. But what are you going to do in reference to change management? Is your goal to partner with the neighbors and the community across the street where these complaints are coming from, where you've been invited to be a part of the community to bring positive change management? Do you have those types of goals? So we're not in the situation again, and we're not here again on another night.
So, yes, I'm willing to work with the community, but like I said, this was all thrown at me. Like, I did not receive the letter that they said I received. I don't have a mailbox. So if they sent me this letter from the HOA stating that they reached out to me, well, apparently, I don't know how they mailed it because I did not get it.
With all the visits from the police officers from the city of Westminster, with all the complaints, with the phone calls to please reach back out to the police department, do you believe this is normal? You believe this is normal?
Do I believe what is normal?
The behaviors that a business is ran this way.
I have reached out to the police department. I've given them my cameras on several occasions. I've done everything I could possibly, including following the laws that any incident you have to call. You can't just dismiss it. So I've done my part as a licensed business owner. And yes, I'm going to reach, or yes, I reached out to the, I mean, this is, like I say, this is all new to me when they came to me with this at late February, early March.
The community's changing, and a lot of times we as business owners, we have to change with the environment and the communities that we are working within. And I just wanted your input on that, where you stand and align with that as a business owner.
I can, as far as the noise, I can redo the windows as far as that goes. And like I say, I found out that the bass was loud when the officer told me, well, it's your bass. And that was in November or December, one of the months he told me. So we checked that. We made sure that the bass isn't there, that, you know, as far as the noise, as far as the disturbances, I have top security there just to make sure everything's peaceful. Yeah, as far as reaching out to them, yeah, that's fine. I have no problem with that.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
John Robofinger, you can go ahead.
Okay, and I'm going to go back to your side again, and this may be news to you, but one of the things that said no sports teams, sweats, jerseys, or hats. So when somebody walks in with a Bronco hat, do you make them take it off?
No, it just depends. I've learned that being a bar owner, and when I put the sign up years ago as far as colors, I didn't understand what colors meant. I had to understand what it meant. So when somebody comes in with a blue hat or a red hat or a light blue hat or a white hat or something of that attire, sometimes I've learned that it's part of their gang attire maybe, or it's their club that they're in, something to that effect. So that's why I have learned through the years that colors mean something.
The other question I had, no known gang members allowed inside. You have a list of gang members that you know, or your people that work for you know, and they won't let them in?
No, I have no list. I have no list.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
So I got another question for you. So with noise complaints,
Yes.
so you mean to tell me out of all these times you walked outside, you've never heard the bass beating, but your neighbors across the catty corner from you have?
When I heard the bass, yeah, I mean, when I heard the bass, when the officer told me about the bass, because we lowered the music, and each song has its different tones, it's different bass. So even though you lower it, it's got bass to it. It just depends on what song it is. So I had to learn that as well. So that's why we were going outside to check all the time. And we would keep our patio door closed because we didn't want to get another complaint with the police. And they would come in the one time. They would never come back again because we worked with them.
It's just hard for me to believe that you've had that many noise complaints, but if you're checking it every 15 minutes, you've never heard it.
Yeah, but at the same time, you got to understand who's these complaints coming from. I addressed it. You got 6 complaints from Zach, 6 from Dylan. You got 4 anonymous, or 3 refused, 1 anonymous. That's 14, 12, 13, 14. That's 16 calls right there. So, I mean, to me, it sounds like it's like they don't want the bar there. They don't want that whole. That's what it sounds to me like.
All right. So if there's 6 different people out to get you, or you're just not holding your own self accountable?
I'm holding myself accountable. That's why I go out and check the music. That's why I go out and do what I do, because I hold myself accountable as a business owner.
Well, we know that the police department has already said that when they went there, they heard the bass. So
Yes.
The police department's not singling you out.
No, but they came and they got the complaint from the housing, I guess, so they got a complaint. So they would come to my bar and then I'd have to address it. So once I addressed it, then it was lowered. It was done. They never came out again after that.
But how many times does it take you to have to figure out how to address it?
It takes me every time that they come out. I mean, like I say, you got all these phone calls from 3 individuals that I know of. 4 individuals.
My last question is, how many times is too many?
I don't know. I can't even answer that.
All right, that's all I've got.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead, David.
I got two more things for you.
Mm-hmm.
Have you looked at your social media reviews?
Have I looked at what?
Your social media reviews.
My social, I can't hear you.
Like Yelp or
He's talking about your social media accounts, such as Google, Yelp.
No, I have not.
Haven't?
No, I have not.
Because the noise is on that too.
Pardon?
People are talking about noise on those accounts too.
Oh, okay. I haven't looked at it.
I mean, there is no doubt you have noise. Otherwise, why would you send people out in the parking lot to check?
Okay.
And if you're running a bar with music and you don't know what bass is?
I know what the bass is. It's just how loud it is, and where it how far the distance is from one place to another.
You are an adult. You should know what loud music is.
And I do know what loud music is.
People don't need to come and tell adults turn it down, do they?
No, but I go outside and check the music to make sure it's not loud.
Have you been told to turn it down on multiple times?
Yes, I have.
That's called disturbing the peace.
Okay.
It's specifically a violation. Thank you.
Does the board have any other questions at this time? Charlene, do you have anything?
No, I just kind of think that you guys have kind of covered everything, and that this place has kind of lost control with noise and violence, and I don't really have an answer for, but I also don't believe that we would, if someone was applying for a new liquor license and we got the 78% and we were told that they were going to put a sign on their door like they have currently on their door, and that they weren't going to be considerate of the neighborhood and seeming to pass the problems on to everyone else, that we would not approve a new liquor license with what was presented today.
I just want to point out we're not quite in deliberation yet. So, we're still asking the licensee questions. And then I think, you would proceed to, asking the city if there's any rebuttal evidence that the city wants to present, and then hearing closing statements, and then moving on to deliberation.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
This is John. I just have one more question for you, Ms. Nguyen. This past year has just been a terrible on many businesses. Can you tell us how it changed your business and your operation?
Well, I lost revenue for sure because of the COVID. There was a couple months I was closed down. So yeah, it's been a struggle. I mean, every day it's a struggle to get back to business. I mean, what can I say?
What'd your employees do?
I didn't have many employees. I ran the bar mainly myself. I only used friends and family at nighttime when I needed them, because the bar was only open from I don't know, at the time when it was open at 8 o'clock, we only had it open for 2 hours. And then when it went to 10 o'clock, there was no business. There was hardly any business. So it just depends. But I was there most of the time.
So
thank you.
So you were closed for 2 months out of the last year?
I was closed down from March 17th till June 1st, I want to say, right after Memorial Weekend.
So you were closed for 2.5 months, which means you were open for 9.5 months out of last year, and you still had 26 service calls? Doesn't that seem a little, kind of out there?
Probably.
And especially with you saying that some nights you were only open 2 hours a night?
Like from 6 to 8, just on the weekdays, some of the weekdays.
All right, so being open 6 to 8, closing at 10, so only being open a few hours every night, 3 nights a week.
Yeah.
26 service calls is a lot, and that's what really concerns me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Does the board have any other questions for the applicant at this time? Yes, Keith? Oh, okay, perfect. Mark, do you have anything else that you would like to say?
I have no rebuttal evidence. Just to address that point of order, I would make a brief comment in terms of what I call a closing argument, if that would please the board.
Perfect. And Susan, do you have anything else that you would like to state at this time?
No, I do not.
Yeah. Seeing that there's no other statements, we will close the public portion of this hearing. and give the board time to discuss it amongst themselves. All right, I'll go first. My thought is, I'm kind of on the same page as Charlene, is if a new applicant came in and they wanted to open up a second bar, and we started looking back at their history of their first bar, and that first bar had 26 service calls in 1 year, would we allow that applicant to open up a second bar? The answer to that is most likely no. So why would we renew the application for this license again? It's a public nuisance. This 22% is unfavorable, which is huge in surveys. That's what I have to say.
This is John Velasquez. I'm really kind of about this whole application and the renewal. I've been on this board 15 plus years. Think about that, 15 plus years. And in that time, I have never seen an applicant, whether it be new or renewal, have to come to in front of the board with the police documentation that they have and go through a question of the applicant that I found very disturbing based on the evidence. I just don't feel good about a renewal of this license. Thank you.
Board members, again, this is Keith Martin. I'd just like to remind the board that the matter before you tonight is a renewal application, and there's a standard, excuse me, and the standard is good cause, and the decision that you're here to make tonight is whether there's good cause to refuse to renew or deny the renewal application. So I think what I would recommend is focus your actions on a couple of things. A, whether the city has presented sufficient evidence to meet that good cause standard. Then after you make that finding, then you would move on and take an action with respect to the actual application, which is we either, deny the renewal or approve the renewal. Does that make sense to everyone?
Yeah, go ahead, John. Yes,
Yeah,
it does make sense to me.
I was gonna go there just before Keith mentioned it, and I think that the exhibits that the city has presented to the board go over and above meeting our criteria for us to make a decision. So I'll leave it at that.
I agree with you, John. I think the city and the police department have done a very good job of presenting their case this evening. And I will let you know I would not be in favor of renewing this license. Are there any other questions at this time or comments? Seeing that we have no comments or questions, do we have a motion from anyone from the board? All right, I can make a motion. I move that the board take the following action as a result of these 26 violations to revoke the license and do not renew their license for Sports Watch Bar and Grill.
If you need a second, I would second that.
Okay, as we have a second, Mary Joy, can we do a roll call vote, please?
Amin,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Hatfield,
Caroline
Okay,
Hatfield is not on the
she
list
let
of
me know
panelists.
that yeah, she's not able to participate. So, Mo,
Yes.
Rommelfinger,
Yes.
Shu,
Yes.
Velasquez.
Yes.
So that's a vote 6-0 in favor of the motion to deny or not renew the license. Parker, I think you're muted.
I am. At this time, this portion of the hearing has been concluded, and we will move on to other business. Mary Joy, do we have any other business to discuss at this time?
The only thing that I just wanted to, I do not have any items for the April 7th hearing. So I would like to ask the board to cancel that hearing date, as I don't have any business for you. Do you want me to do a roll call vote?
Yes, please.
Amin,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Mo,
Yes.
Rommelfinger,
Yes.
Shu,
Yes.
Velasquez.
Yes.
Okay, and then I just wanted to let the board know that we have a full meeting for the April 21st regular meeting. And I mean full by, we haven't had this many applicants in over a year. We have 2 new beer and wine licenses to consider and a special event permit at that meeting on the 21st. And that is all I have, unless anybody has any questions for me.
Will we go back to go to meeting on the
Yes.
21st?
Yes, we will.
Okay, cool.
We went with the go-to webinar because of the amount of people we thought might be participating, and this is what they use with city council and planning commission meetings. But we definitely did have some issues with audio. So for our regular meetings, we will be using go-to meeting because I think it works better for those regular meetings.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions for Mary Joy or for the board at this time? Does anyone have a silly question? Does anyone have a motion to adjourn?
I make a motion to adjourn.
Can I get a second? David seconded it with a thumbs up. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Perfect. Thank you, everybody. Have a great evening.
Good night.
Good night.
Thanks, Mary Joy.
Aye,
Yes,
thank
good
you.
night.